Good afternoon and welcome to today's proceedings of the Senate on this 3rd day of March 2020. This afternoon, the debate on the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bills number 13 of 2018 will resume. This debate is for the second reading, and thereafter the debate on the Sacco Societies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2018 will also resume. The bill was last debated on 18th February 2020. Another bill whose debate will resume this afternoon is the Fisheries Management and Development Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2019. The bill is courtesy of the Senator for Homa Bay County, Senator Moses Kajwang. There will also be a resumption of debate on various bills, among them the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill, the National Assembly Bill number 35 of 2019, and in the Committee of the Whole House, the consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the Office of the County Attorney Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2018, the consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the Petition to County Assemblies Procedure Bill, Senate Bills number 22 of 2018, and consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the Early Childhood Education Bill, Senate Bills number 26 of 2018. This bill will be debated in the Committee of the Whole House, and thereafter the senators will proceed to division. The Lifestyle Audit number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 21 of 2019, is also in the order of business this afternoon for the second reading. The principal purpose of the bill is to provide a legal framework for lifestyle audit. The bill seeks to incorporate the values and principles of governance under Article 10 of the Constitution into the public or state officers' public work. The bill, which has been authored by nominated Senator Farhia Ali Haji, seeks to provide amnesty for corruption cases under Deferred Prosecution Agreement with the Directorate of Prosecution. The Senator argues that there is no legal framework presently as to how a lifestyle audit is to be carried out on a public or state officer who is suspected to be living beyond that person's lawful income. Part 3 of the bill provides for amnesty for corruption cases under Deferred Prosecution Agreement with the Director of Public Prosecutions. The Deferred Prosecution Agreements framework is in response to perceived deficiencies in the existing prosecution framework involving economic crimes, which include, among others, long, expensive, and complicated investigations and trials for offenses of economic crimes and non-compensation of victims of economic crimes. The Deferred Prosecution Agreements shall be concluded under the supervision of a High Court judge who must be convinced that the Deferred Prosecution Agreement is in the interest of justice and that the terms of the Deferred Prosecution Agreement are fair and reasonable and proportionate. If you're just joining us, the proceedings of the Senate are about to begin, and now I will hand you over for the live broadcast, live from the Senate chambers in Nairobi.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings As your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic, we seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, as you recall, on Thursday, 27th February 2020, Senator James Orengo, the Senate Minority Leader, rose on a point of order seeking the clarification of the Speaker on the directions issued on Wednesday, 26th February 2020, relating to an adjournment motion on the transfer of functions from one level of government to another. Honorable Senators, by way of background, you will recall that on Tuesday, 25th February 2020, Vide Gazette Notice number 1609, dated the same day, the Nairobi City County government ceded some of its functions to the national government through a deed of transfer of functions entered into between the national government on the one hand and Nairobi City County governor on the other. 3, thereafter, by a letter referral number Senate ML 2023 and dated 26 February 2020, the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, notified the Speaker of his intentions to move a motion for the adjournment of the Senate pursuant to Standing Order 34 on a definite matter of urgent national importance, namely the transfer of functions from the Nairobi City County government to the national government. At the sitting of the Senate held on Wednesday, 26 February 2020, pursuant to Standing Order 34.1, the Senate Majority Leader rose to seek leave to move the adjournment motion. The request was supported by the requisite number of senators under Standing Order number 34.5. The chair then appointed 3:30 p.m. as the time for the motion, for moving of the motion, at which time the motion was moved, seconded, debate then ensued. Honorable Senators, upon conclusion of debate on the motion, the chair observed that the mover of the motion, the seconder, and the senators who had contributed to the motion had raised various issues on the constitutionality, legality, and procedure relating to the transfer of the functions of the Nairobi City County government to the national government. Consequently, the directions were issued from the chair that the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations, jointly with the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, Human Rights, 1, convene hearings on the matter and receive submissions from various constitutional and statutory office holders. 2, that submits an interim report to the House within 21 days on the constitutional, legal, and procedural issues arising, highlighting legal, statutory, or constitutional gaps. Three, conducts public participation on the matter after the submission of the interim report. And 4, submits a comprehensive report on the Senate within 60 days with proposed legislative amendments to improve the existing legal framework on the transfer of functions between the two levels of government and to give clarity on the same. Honorable Senators, it was on this basis that on Thursday, 27th, 2020, the Senate Minority Leader rose on a point of order seeking clarification on, among others, the directions that referred the matter to the two standing committees. The Senate Minority Leader, while observing that these directions had been made in the exercise of the discretionary powers of the chair under Standing Order 1, stated that in the practice of the Senate, a motion of adjournment under Standing Order 34 does not usually result in such directions. He further stated that the motion before the Senate was that the Senate do now adjourn. And therefore, any resolution or direction made on the adjournment motion would go beyond the scope of an adjournment motion, which was to adjourn the House for purpose of discussing a definite matter of urgent national importance. Senator Samuel Burgisho and Senator Ledama Olekina also rose in support of the point of order by Senate Minority Leader. 7, having listened to the request by the Senate Minority Leader and the contributions of the two senators, I undertook to give a ruling today, Tuesday, 3rd March 2020. I further directed that in the meantime, the committees do not proceed in the manner directed on Wednesday, 26 February 2020. Honorable Senators, the question that requires my determination is whether any action or directions can ensue from an adjournment motion. Honorable Senators, Standing Order 34.1 provides that a senator may at any time rise in his or her place and seek leave for reasons stated to move the adjournment of the Senate for the purpose of discussing a definite matter of urgent national importance. Paragraph 2 further requires a senator who wishes to seek leave to move the adjournment of the Senate to hand to the Speaker a written notification of the matter, after which the Speaker, being satisfied that the matter is definite, urgent, of national importance, may approve the matter. 10, paragraph 3 of the standing order states that the motion to be moved shall be that the Senate do now adjourn to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance, namely Standing Order 34.4. Further states that the motion shall be seconded and proposed, but no question shall be put at the end of the debate. Honorable Senators, motions for the adjournment of the Senate pursuant to Standing Order 34 have been used severally in the Senate. As examples, the Senate has at various times used the mechanism to discuss the taxation burden on Kenya, the security situation in Mount Elgon constituency, Bungoma County, and the disaster in West Pokot County that had been occasioned by a landslide that claimed over 50 lives. Adjournment motions are not unique to the Kenyan Senate or indeed the Parliament of Kenya. They are legislative instruments that are a common feature in most Commonwealth legislatures, including Canada, India, Australia, New Zealand, Zambia, and South Africa. Honorable Senators, the provisions of the standing orders and practices and procedures of comparative jurisdictions in the Commonwealth reveal the following as some of the common principles that govern the use of adjournment motions on urgent matters of national importance. 1, an adjournment motion may be sought for the purpose of discussing a definite or specific matter of urgent national or public importance. 2, notice of an adjournment motion proposed to be moved on a particular day is to be given to the Speaker at an appointed hour prior to the sitting of that day. 3, in determining whether an adjournment motion should be allowed, the Speaker shall have regard to various matters, including A, not more than one such motion shall be moved at the same time sitting. B, not more than one matter shall be discussed on the same adjournment motion. C, that the motion should be restricted to a specific matter of recent occurrence. That the motion should not raise a question of privilege. E, that the motion should not revive discussion on a matter that has been discussed in the same sessions. F, that the motion should not anticipate a matter which has previously been appointed for consideration. And G, that the motion shall not raise any question which, according to the standing orders, should be debated on distinct motion for which notice has been given in writing. 4, where the Speaker gives consent for an adjournment motion to be sought, the Speaker shall call the member to rise and in his or her place and ask for leave to move the adjournment of the House, which shall require the support of a designated number of members. 5, if the request receives the requisite support, a time shall be appointed for removing of the motion, and at that appointed time, debate on the motion shall proceed. 6, when the debate is concluded, the Speaker is required to forthwith adjourn the House and in effect close debate on the adjournment motion. Different mechanisms can exist for this purpose. In the Parliament of Canada, the Speaker is required, when satisfied that the debate has been concluded, to declare the motion carried and forthwith adjourn the House until the next sitting day. In the case of India's lower house of Parliament, the Lok Sabha, the Speaker may, if he is satisfied that there has been adequate debate, put the question. In the Parliament of New Zealand, at the conclusion of the debate, the motion lapses without any question being put. These provisions are similar to those provided in our standing orders. Honorable Senators, you will observe that the adjournment motion as a legislative instrument varies in terms of its effect and outcome when compared to other legislative instruments provided for in our standing orders. For example, in the case of motions provided for under Parts 12 and 13 of the standing orders, once debate on such motions is concluded, a question is put for the decision of the Senate. This constitutes the resolution of the Senate on the motion. In the case of bills, as provided for under Parts 20 and 21 of the standing orders, the eventual outcome after the legislative process is the enactment of legislation. Statements as provided for under Part 11 of the standing orders may, depending on the standing order under which they are made or sought, result in an inquiry to be undertaken by the relevant committees. Petitions, which are a significant method of which the public may bring matters of concern to the Senate, will usually result in an inquiry conducted by a relevant committee, following which a report on the petition, which constitutes the response to the petitioner, is tabled in the Senate. Unlike these legislative instruments, the nature of an adjournment motion is that while it provides an opportunity for immediate discussion of a definite matter of urgent national importance without reference to the usual notice periods required, it does not result in a resolution or a decision of the Senate. In nature, it is such that no action is required of the Senate at the conclusion of its debate. Indeed, this is the design of this legislative instrument. Honorable Senators, Standing Order Number 1.1 provides that in all cases where matters are not expressly provided by these standing orders or by the other orders of the Senate, any procedural question shall be decided by the Speaker. Standing Order Number 1.1 therefore provides for discretion on the part of the chair where there is a lacuna in the standing orders. Where such lacuna exists, Standing Order 1.2 requires that discretion shall be applied with reference to the Constitution, statute law, and usages, forms, precedents, customs, procedures, and traditions of our Parliament and other jurisdictions where applicable. 18, in the case of an adjournment motion, Standing Order 33.4 provides that the motion to be moved is that the Senate do now adjourn to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance. Standing Order 3.4 further provides that an adjournment motion shall be seconded and proposed but no question shall be put at the end of the debate. There is therefore express provision to the effect that at the conclusion of debate on an adjournment motion, there is no resolution or further action required of the Senate. This would apply notwithstanding to the weight or the gravity of the matter that has been raised under an adjournment motion. It constrains the Senate to do no more, even where a specific action or outcome would be desirable on account of the matter before the Senate. It therefore behoves a senator who desires a specific outcome to consider the use of the appropriate legislative instrument or tool other than an adjournment motion. A motion of adjournment cannot give rise to a decision by the Senate as contemplated under Article 123 of the Constitution. Honorable Senators, in the circumstances, taking into account the provisions of Standing Order 1 and Standing Order 34 of the Senate Standing Orders, and further taking into account relevant procedures of the comparative legislatures, and having consulted within the Presidium, I hereby find that no resolution or direction can ensue upon the conclusion of a debate on an adjournment motion on a definite matter of urgent national importance. Accordingly, the directions issued on Wednesday, 26 February 2020 on the matter of the transfer of functions of the Nairobi City County Government to the national government are hereby vacated. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Before the statements, take your seat. You can sit the nearest. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon of visiting members of staff from Taita Taveta County Assembly. They are Ms. Mwambere Phyllis, Hansard Editor; 2, Mr. Wilfred Musengeti, Audio Officer; 3, Mr. Kennedy Oyugi, Hansard Reporter; 4, Cosmas Mesegana, ICT Officer; 5, Mr. Godwin Mashila, ICT Officer. On behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I welcome them to the Senate and I wish them well for the remainder of their stay. I thank you. Senator Maruma, you are not indicating that you want to welcome your...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to join you in welcoming the staffers of Taita Taveta County Assembly. I would like to tell them that feel at home. I know you have a lot to learn from here, and especially for the ICT and audio officers. We have all of them in committees, so welcome, and also go to committees. You'll have a lot to learn. And when you go back to Taveta, please don't forget to pass our greetings. I thank you.
Senator Nderitu.
Asante sana Bwana Spika, nataka kuungana na wewe kuwakaribisha wageni wetu kutoka Taita Taveta. Tuwaambie ya kwamba tumekuwa hapa na Maruma tunamjua kama mfanyikazi hodari, na tena Taita Taveta tumejua kulikuwa na yale mambo yaliyokuwa yaliyoko huko Taita Taveta, na mimi kama mwenyekiti wa kamati ya ugatuzi nataka kuwapongeza kwa sababu baada ya yale maswala yaliyokuwa maswala sugu, wao waliyatatua kwa njia ambayo ilikuwa ya amani, na sasa tunajua mambo yanaendelea mbele. Kwa hivyo tunawaambia hongera, na wakifika huko nyumbani salamu zetu wapeane na waseme ya kwamba tunaangalia kwa kazi nzuri wanaoifanya baada ya mtukasuko kidogo. Asante.
Senator Lamu, statement is deferred. Senator Gertrude Musuruve. Maybe move to the dispatch box, Senator Musuruve. Sorry about or they can get a portable microphone. Senator Petronila, what is your... Okay. Okay.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare concerning establishment of youth development centers in the 47 counties. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state how many youth development centers were established in the pilot phase of the sector plan for gender, youth, and vulnerable groups in the year 2013 to 2017 by the then Ministry of Devolution and Planning and in various counties. 2, state whether the youth development centers are well equipped and functional to serve the purpose they are intended for. 3, present audited information on the youth development centers and success record or records since inception of the centers. And 5, explain the interventions that the centers have come up with to reduce youth unemployment in the country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me probably just to comment on this statement that, Honorable Speaker, in quite a number of counties, it is possible to find a number of youths who are unemployed, who are idle, and as a result of being idle, they get into activities that are not desirable even for this nation. Some youths get into drugs and they become drug addicts, and some of them also even get into killing each other. Some of them have no mentors. And so, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that because of the many problems, psychosocial problems that youths go through, there's need for the Committee of Labor, where I sit, to investigate about these centers and give a report. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Milgo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I rise to support this statement, and it's going to come to my committee, but I want to say that this is a very important statement, bearing in mind that in the just concluded census, our youth is well over 65%. With these centers, Mr. Speaker, I think that will serve as areas to engage our youths, and in this case, to prevent them from engaging in various activities that would otherwise affect them. We have very many of our youths engaging in drugs and substance abuse. Others have been lured to join such activities as Al-Shabaab and very many others. Others may even engage in thuggery and very many other activities that in this case will not augur well with our youths. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think when this statement comes to our committee, we shall be able to go into the real nitty-gritty of this, and in any case, we shall ensure that our youths, which are in this case constituting a live population, will have centers to actually expend the much energy that I have got. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, next statement by Senator Abshiro. Senator Abshiro, your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations regarding the incessant fire outbreaks in several county offices, destroying official and crucial documents, mostly from the finance offices. In the statement, Mr. Speaker, the committee should explain the circumstances that has led to the fire outbreaks that have burnt down offices holding financial records in several counties, in Migori, Homa Bay, Kitui, Busia, and Kisumu counties, destroying crucial documents that are used for audit purposes. Mr. Speaker, as the oversight body for counties, I have been wondering at what point we're going to have some of these things looked into with a view to identifying whether or not these fires were just an accident or there's certain mischief to it. The committee should also state the measures, if any, that the county governments have put in place to hold the persons responsible for the destruction accountable and to ensure that such occurrences are not repeated. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to look into these issues. I was hoping that we will find something, get to the bottom of this. I rest my case and hope that this will be looked into, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Senator Ndwiga, is that statement? Okay.
Mr. Speaker, if it's okay, I can give the statement from here. Thank you.
I can see some interest on her statement first.
Okay.
So, Falhada, you want to comment on the statement?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute and comment on the statement for Senator Abshiro. And is it coincident that these counties, only the finance office is the ones that are being banned? Is there a mischief, the way she said that, why only that offices are being banned? The second thing is the committee should also deliberate. If these counties have a fire brigade, what are they doing to wait these offices to burn down? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mogeni, Eric.
Yes, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sorry. Mr. Speaker, the issue that has been raised by Senator Bushiro is a very important matter. And I think, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that needs to be escalated to the office of the Director of DCI. Because what happens in most of these counties is that anytime there is a visit by EACC or DCI, there is a fire outbreak, and oftentimes it's in the finance offices. Mr. Speaker, the DCI should be able to appear before this House and tell us whether investigations around the offenses of arson have been done in any of these counties, and whether there has been any recommendations to have the culprits arrested and charged in courts of law. This is just a scheme of some very unscrupulous people in counties to ensure that they destroy evidence so that any attempt to nail them on corruption cases does not succeed. It's a very serious matter, and I hope the committee will not just stop in meeting some small people here and there, but they should meet the head of DCI to tell us what he has done to do investigations around these fires. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Farhia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity to contribute on this. Mr. Speaker, this is an arson, and it should be, you know, I mean, there should be no debate about whether this is something that, what the intention or not. It's very clear what the intentions are. By the fact that other documents and other offices never get burnt. What is so important about the finance? The only thing that I can say is the corruption that exists in the counties, and probably very soon you'll hear documents burning in Wajir County because I think that county is also corrupt. So maybe I'll be quoted for saying this in this House, that next will be Wajir County that will be burning their financial records. Mr. Speaker, there is need to come up with a solution of like having a virtual, you know, system of storing information that safeguards the financial document, Mr. Speaker. Other institutions who are serious about financial records already have that. So, Mr. Speaker, including even in the IFMIS system, expanding in such a way that each of those payment documents that are related to that payment to be part of the storage system in the IFMIS system, Mr. Speaker. That has been done in other institutions, Mr. Speaker, and it is possible. Mr. Speaker, this is corruption, and there is no any other explanation to explain this, and therefore anybody who is found to be burning documents should be charged for that crime. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the statement.
Senator Mbogo Ochilo Ayako.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my county is one of the counties whose records were burnt sometime in 2017. And I remember my governor appearing before the Public Accounts Committee, and the committee asked the governor or the county executive to avail the documents. Mr. Speaker, we know that fires do happen. And in fact, in law, it is expected that fire may burn anything. But if you look at the Public Finance Management Act, it is very specific that county financial records must be backed up. In fact, it is an offense not to back them up. It is expected that somebody might even bomb the county offices, but it's not envisaged that the records would disappear. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask those responsible for this to initiate or to cause the responsible offices like DCI and ESCC to initiate prosecution against these executives for not backing up these documents. We know fires do happen. It could be accidental, it could be willful, it could be anything. But to say that records cannot be traced of public funds that are spent, I think that is the height of joking or the height of bad manners. These governors must be made to avail the records. If they did not back them up, I think they belong to where such people belong, people who try to erase records or who try to prevent investigations from going on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Nderitu Kinyua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I would want to thank Senator Halake for bringing these statements, and I would want to commit to this House that we are going to follow that matter seriously. Mr. Speaker, we are going to invite all the the required officers, as Senator Mugeni said. And if necessary, we are going to invite them in this house so that even the other members can interrogate them seriously so that we can get to the bottom of the matter. Mr. Speaker, our worry is it cannot be coincidence that the only offices that are getting banned are offices that keep very serious records of finance, the matter issue. So it means maybe there is cover-up, and that's what we are going to add in so that Kenyans can know exactly what is happening or what happened. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Ledamo Lekina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you. This matter, and let me thank Senator Bishiro Alaki for bringing up this matter, because this is a matter that should now make us think on how we can be able to avoid these things from happening. Mr. Speaker, sir, the moment we treat public information as public information is the day that we can be able to ensure that we develop as a nation which is open. We talk about a cloud solution. Any person with a business will actually treat paper as secondary information. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is an opportunity for us now to really look at the PFM Act, maybe amend the section that requires every county government to back up their financial records, to actually make sure that we are very specific in terms of how records, which are held by all these 47 counties, should be kept. And I dare say that the best way and the only way that we can ensure that we don't get into these pinky-ponky games with governors saying that there are fires in these records offices is by making sure that there is a portal, which is a public portal, that all these governors post all the records for all the programs that they fund. If it is financial records, anyone in Kenya should be able to go in and key in and say, Narok County, as an example. These tender documents were issued, these are the companies that applied, these are the ones that have been able to apply, and there is a clear status report on how each of the projects are actually progressing. So in the event that there is a fire, we don't really care about the secondary documents which are kept under lock and key. You know, sometimes when I hear people saying that they have lost all financial records and they cannot be able to trace them, it makes me wonder. We have KRA, which we have Central Bank, we have the Controller of Budget, we have the Auditor General, where you can be able to recreate all those documents. So instead of spending public money to recreate those documents, I think it is about time that we should find a solution. Because even if we lament and we talk about these problems and we raise these issues on the floor of this House, unless we have a concrete solution or way forward, we cannot be able to achieve anything. And I'm happy that Senator Nderito is saying we will call all these governors, we will talk to them, we'll find out. But I think the committee, instead of just calling those governors, what the committee should come up with is a solution. And my suggestion to them is that look at the existing legislations. How do we make sure that it is watertight? So that when you are tasked with a fiduciary responsibility, you cannot then come back and say, we cannot be able to account to the Auditor General because our documents were burned down during the recent fires. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee that will be looking at this matter should not only come with explanation as to why these fires are occurring, but they should come up with a solution as to how we are going to prevent these things from, or public money from being lost in such dubious activities. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wetangula, then Senator Musuruve.
Mr. Speaker, I want to join the House in speaking to this very absurd incidents in counties. Mr. Speaker, you remember before we even talk about county offices burning, there was a wave of fires in schools. Every other school was going up in smoke. And investigations showed that, in fact, these were acts of arson. It is unbelievable, Mr. Speaker, that the fires that have erupted and consumed finance offices in the 4 counties that have been mentioned happened in such a way that no records were left. Why didn't the fire erupt, for example, in the office of Works? Why not in the office of Public Service? Why Finance? In each of the 4 counties, Mr. Speaker, the fires are clearly an act of criminal culpability. And I want to urge, Mr. Speaker, this House and the committee chair, the distinguished colleague from Laikipia is here, to quickly look at the law and obligate each and every county not to store financial information in hard copies alone. Banks have vaults where they can go and keep their soft copies. In fact, we should obligate each county to have a fireproof strong room where records of finance are kept. Because what would happen, Mr. Speaker, is thieving governors will just organize and set the finance officers on fire. And when they are called here to public accounts, the DCI, to anybody, they say, our records were banned. Give us the benefit of the doubt. In fact, the DCI should start by dealing with those whose office is banned and proceed to investigate thoroughly to see whether those in very high places or subordinate to them have anything to do with this. I do not believe, Mr. Speaker, that a junior officer in accounts department would commit such an act without conspiring with those who will get the highest level of benefit from such a fire. And this could go on and on, Mr. Speaker. You remember when there was a bomb blast next to Central Bank? You never heard of records disappearing. Coop Bank was razed down. You never heard of records of the headquarters of Cooperative Bank disappearing or accounts being lost. Coop Bank quickly re-emerged and it's stronger than ever before. So these acts of reckless arson to destroy records, to conceal fraudulent activities in counties, Mr. Speaker, must be dealt with by this House, and the sooner the better. Kazi kwako, Bwana Chairman.
Senator Musuruve, you look surprised.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this statement. And I want to commend Senator Halake for coming up with this statement on issue of fires, especially in the finance department. And Honorable Speaker, it is an issue that we must take seriously, because it cannot just happen that in public offices, especially in the finance department, fires are coming out. Honorable Speaker, my thinking is that probably these fires are man-made. It is not really an accident, where you can say that maybe there was an electrical, short or something like that. So there is need to investigate what are the causes of the fires.
Let's consult in Lord tones. Order, members. Order. Let's consult in Lord tones. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And even in investigating the causes of these fires, there's need also for stringent measures to be taken in that particular area where officers work. Like, for example, if the fire erupted in the finance department, all the people in that department need to be brought on board to help in investigation, Honorable Speaker, because they may not be very far from the cause of the fire. So there's need for us as a Senate to see how we can, avoid, or how we can ensure that officers are accountable in the sense that they're not deliberately causing fires in offices. Because, Honorable Speaker, in the event that fires are in offices, then it means that the offices have to be repaired, they have to be refurbished and all that takes away the taxpayers' money. So we have to see how to also protect the taxpayer so that the taxpayer does not pay for a deliberate cause of fire. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity, and I hope that the necessary the committee that is supposed to handle this will work diligently and with speed to ensure that the cause of fire comes to a stop. Thank you.
Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr.
Thank you, Speaker, and Senator Abshiro for raising this concern. Mr. Speaker, the fires in counties are like the fires in Kikomba. They will happen again and again, and promises will be made. Somebody made this comment that for some strange reason, Speaker, and maybe when you are at COG something was agreed, that all finance departments will be kept in temporary structures that are not fireproof, and therefore when any governor is being queried, Mr. Speaker, all they need to do, like the county of Kitui, just burn the records. But I think, Mr. Speaker, and following what Senator Wetangula said, there must be regulations. If you go to the courthouse, you'll find fireproof cabinets where all files are kept. In fact, not just fireproof, nobody can access them unless you have a code. So whichever committee is going to deal with this issue, the better way, Mr. Speaker, is to have regulations and a framework where documents belonging to a county, particularly in finance department, will be kept in fireproof rooms. And the county must ensure that that is done. I think it's the best way so that we can make sure, other than keeping the hard copies, there must also be backup copies. It's only in counties, it's only in county governments where documents concerning finance are like papers that light charcoal burners. It's arson, and we must call it as it is. The county governments, through their governors, are burning these financial records to hide corruption. And they must take responsibility for it. You are aware, Speaker, that there is a governor who assumed office and found the documents scattered in somebody's house. That is why the assumption of office was supposed to ensure that there's a framework for governors to hand over documents, hand over schedules. It's deliberate. Let's call it the way it is. It's not a fire, it's deliberate arson to conceal corruption. Thank you.
Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, I was discussing a similar subject in Kisumu County when I visited the senator for Kisumu, and the public were concerned that financial records in Kisumu County had been burnt in a fire that, quote, was mysterious. What is disappointing about the Kisumu fire, Mr. Speaker, is that the distinguished governor for Kisumu sat in this house, and he sat as the chair of the Public Accounts Committee. And it is very suspicious when fire decides to raise down financial records at a time when they are dealing with pending bills, and the fire starts in the finance department and ends in the finance department and does not burn the governor's office or other offices that are adjacent. And it is not only Kisumu County, and I cite Kisumu County because, Mr. Speaker, it is a disappointment to this House when a person who was an eminent and distinguished member and a person of whom we are very proud would have these things happening under his watch. It has happened in Homa Bay County, my own county, Mr. Speaker. It has happened in Migori County. It has happened in Busia County. It has happened in Kitui County. And I agree with Senator Mutula Kilonzo that these are deliberate arson efforts. Mr. Speaker, last year, when we dealt with this issue and these counties came before the Senate, we insisted that each county government must within 3 months implement a risk management framework. That is a requirement in the law. It is in the PFM Act. Some of these counties have fire engines that can respond to fires in markets but cannot respond to fire in finance departments. And again, when the DCI comes in to investigate, and one comical case was a case of Migori County, Mr. Speaker. We even had a report from the DCI saying that investigations were underway. That was the beginning and the end of the statement. In Homa Bay County, it is the same story, that investigations are underway. The DCI is letting this country down. We know some of the shenanigans happening in counties between the DCI and EACC. We demand to be told the truth around these fires. Finally, Mr. Speaker, in terms of responsibility and culpability on these fires, it lies squarely with the chief executive officer of the county, who happens to be the governor of the county. That is a position that the Public Accounts Committee has taken, that the governors must be directly responsible for the losses occasioned by these fires, alongside the CECs for finance or the CECs for treasury, who the PFM Act requires to put in place a risk management framework. The National Treasury must also help counties by making sure that IFMIS becomes an alternative source of truth. In Migori County, Mr. Speaker, they could not account for close to 1.5 billion Kenya shillings. And they went back to IFMIS, trying to justify from IFMIS. And yet, in every other county, they'll tell you that IFMIS does not work properly to the last cent. Shame on the governors from these counties that are banning records. Shame on the CECs for finance. And this time round, really, as a Senate, we must hold some of these governors to account for those very heinous acts. Thank you, Senator Abshiro, for bringing this.
Senator Mwaura Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's quite comical to hear Senator Moses Kajwang speak. He's even speaking in a very comical manner, trying to demonstrate how fires are started. And curiously, of course, that they seem to only happen at the Finance Department. But this is not the first time this is happening. Just to support this statement for investigation, you remember when Joe Akech was the mayor for Nairobi? It also happened. The documents, were banned. City Hall actually was banned almost half, but around where the documents are kept. And that means, really, it's a very preconceived idea, so that then people are able to cover up on misappropriations when there are audits that are supposed to be done. So really, this statement is very important. But also, it speaks to the issue about record keeping. I think we need to come up with a system as a country where such documents are also audited, but also they are also stored electronically. Because if then people know that you can still retrieve such kind of documents, where they are, secured in an iCloud, then even if they were to destroy the physical evidence in terms of the receipts and what have you, they would have already been scanned, and you can still go ahead and audit. But also further to that, and I think Senator Kajwang can agree with me on this, is basically the preoccupation of ourselves with these things we call financial audits. It's important if we also do performance audits, and so that then people are not just looking at how money was spent, it's also actually whether work was done. Because even if you are to destroy documents and you demonstrate that actually work was done, then it would be evidential. But now that we are very much preoccupied with receipts, we are very much preoccupied with bank statements and what have you, then you can see this kind of behavior. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, really this is a matter of concern, and it should be arrested now, because if it happened in the defunct local governments, it's now happening with new counties that we expected that they would be more sophisticated. It could also happen in future. So with those many and few remarks, I support.
Senator Zani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just to reiterate what Senator Mwaura has said, this is not the first time that these fires have happened. In fact, we envisaged, I think it was in Finance Committee, that this might happen when we began to have sessions with governors and to have not the level of transparency that we had expected. And somebody somewhere was like, supposing these records are burnt. And we quickly started thinking that we probably need to come up with some sort of legislation across this, because then it seemed, but I think at that time we thought it was going to be the most ridiculous thing that people would do. But now it is happening with a pattern that is really frightening. It means that we are not even respecting the fact that we are receiving this money. This is taxpayers' money that goes to the county. And this money is meant to be used for social and economic benefits for the people of Kenya. Devolution did not come to enrich a few people. Devolution came so that Mwananchi can actually feel the social and economic impact. Now, it becomes very serious affair when that money does not reach the people. Mr. Speaker, some of the ideas to contain this situation were, for example, to come up with very high penalty for having even a fire in the county. Just have such a high penalty so that by the time you even think of starting that fire, you know where you're going to put that money. And Mr. Speaker, it means that we have to go back. I think I suggest the Finance Committee just has to come with some serious legislation to ensure that this does not happen in the future. We need to be able, as others have said, to ensure that we have other systems that can back up the information and the data. Mr. Speaker, so many questions have been raised in this House about IFMIS. We have never been able to demystify and get the right answers from IFMIS. We've had motions, we've had statements coming on the floor of this house. We still don't understand where the delinking really is. When we go to the counties, the governors are saying we're using IFMIS systems, but how are we able to still find money that is disappearing? We are signatories to OGP, Mr. Speaker, where we are saying we need to have open governance systems and partnerships. That means these open, transparent systems must be in real time, so that even if you have those finance officers burnt, we still have that data. And every Kenyan can actually look at that data and be able to understand what is going on. Mr. Speaker, we are letting down Kenyans, and this fire is an epitome of problems in the counties. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Uta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to add my voice to these mysterious fires that has really become fashionable to many counties in this Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I want to condemn these habits that has really denied many Kenyans not to receive services. In Kisumu alone, this mysterious fire only destroyed the finance office. Other paperwork were intact, but only 3 computers, the IFMIS, that was the target. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge this House with urgency to investigate and inquire why are these only finance officers are the ones that are targeted by the criminals who are employed by the county government to loot money. As I speak now, Mr. Speaker, we cannot even trace the employees of the government of Kisumu County. The government of Kisumu County now, they have resorted that they don't have information or records of employees. Now they are using checks to pay their workers because of the fire that destroyed the financial office. Mr. Speaker, the agencies that have been given this mandate, the DCI, the EACC, they have become more of a friendly to this act of destroying the offices, because even if the matter that destroyed all the financial information in some of these county government offices, they do not take no action. But even if you report, they will be able to respond that the action will be taken, but nothing else. And you will never see them coming back and even interrogate or investigate the reasons why they are destroying these files. And therefore, I would urge this House to move with the speed to save this country. Otherwise, we will be failing on our duties. And I want to thank you.
Okay, order, honorable senators. Okay, honorable senators, as you may recall, on Thursday, 20th February 2020, the senator for Nairobi City County issued a statement understanding Order 47-1 on the alleged extrajudicial killings of young Kenyans in Nairobi City County. Several other senators also spoke on the matter. The chairperson of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights informed the Senate that the committee was undertaking an inquiry into the matter and would table an interim report thereon within 2 weeks. Honorable Senators, the committee has now scheduled a sitting to consider the matter tomorrow, Wednesday, 4th March 2020, at the County Hall mini chamber from 11 a.m. Among the stakeholders scheduled to make submissions before the committee are 1, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, POA, B, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, DCI, C, the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, D, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, E, Amnesty International Kenya, F, Haki Africa, G, Social Justice Centers Working Group, H, Defender Coalition, and lastly, International Justice Mission. The committee extends an invitation to all honorable senators to attend this important meeting. I thank you. Let's get a statement from the Chair, Agriculture on locusts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 51.1 provides that a committee chairperson may make a statement relating to a matter for which the committee is responsible. In fulfillment of this provision, I wish to make a statement in regard to the locust invasion in parts of the country. Honorable Speaker, at a sitting of the Senate held on 18th February 2020, Senator Enoch Wambua made a statement on the locust invasion in parts of the country, pursuant to Standing Order 47.1 of the Senate Standing Orders, noting that the locust invasion was a matter of national importance, threatening food security in the country. The Honorable Deputy Speaker directed that the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives be invited to a meeting of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, to which all senators were invited. The committee met with the Cabinet Secretary on Thursday, 27th February 2020, where he admitted that the initial response to the invasion was indeed slow. He, however, assured the committee that the ministry was up to the task and briefed senators on the government efforts to control and contain the locust threat in the country as follows: that 5 aircrafts were spraying and 4 surveillance have been deployed and have, over the last 1.5 months, undertaken aerial control of several locust swarms in the affected regions. There are a total of 28,000 liters of control pesticides has been procured and distributed for use in the affected areas. That control equipment has been distributed to the affected counties, including 3 Kenya Army Land Rovers for ground control, 3 vehicles mounted sprayers used by the Army Land Rovers, 34 motorized sprayers, 70 handheld ultra-low volume applicators, and 250 personal protective equipment, PPEs. That a team of experts has been deployed to the affected areas to train and mobilize the county extension teams to support the locust control efforts. A total of 240 extension officers from the affected counties have so far been trained in 21 counties, and 500 National Youth Servicemen have been identified and mobilized for training in locust ground control. The Locust Disaster Coordination Center, supported by locust management and communication experts from the Food and Agriculture Organization, has been established at Kilimo House to provide day-to-day information on the measures the government is undertaking to eradicate the desert locust. That 6 control bases have been set up in all affected regions, i.e. Wajir, Marsabit, Isiolo, Masinga, Garissa, and Lodwar. That the ministry has deployed a team of experts to carry out an impact assessment of the devastation caused by the locusts, and the report of this assessment shall be used to restitute affected farmers, and that the ministry is launching a public campaign to sensitize the public on the handling of the locust. In addition to the above mentioned efforts, the Cabinet Secretary informed the meeting that there are currently plans to increase the number of spray aircrafts to 20, with the support and collaboration with development partners, including FAO, for spraying and 10 for spraying and 10 for surveillance, and to acquire and deploy 20 vehicles equipped with suitable sprayers for ground control, and mainly the hatching hoppers. Honorable Speaker, to establish the extent of damage caused by the locust invasion and to establish the measure taken to mitigate the effects of the invasion, the committee undertook a county visit to Embu, Tharaka Nithi, and Samburu counties on Friday, 28 February 2020. The committee observed that the level of devastation in the counties was grave concern and a serious threat to the food security of the nation. Noting the recent floods experienced in various parts of the country and the current locust invasion, a looming famine is a reality. Whereas there has been some success in the control of the locusts by the county government with the help of the national government, several challenges are evident. Among the challenges, the committee noted: A, some counties were yet to receive the NYS officers to assist in the control of hoppers. There is a shortage of pesticides and protective gear in the counties. There is need for urgent and consistent supply of pesticides to the counties for the control measures to be successful. In areas such as Samburu North that are insecure, no measures have been taken to control the locusts, whereas the locusts continue to reproduce. Serious danger is posed by the second generation of locusts that have hatched in various counties and neighboring countries such as Somalia. And going forward, there is need for consistent support for the Desert Locust Control Organization. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee is taking this matter very, very seriously and shall compile and table a comprehensive report within the next 2 weeks. But Mr. Speaker, having said all that, the committee did note that contrary to what the CS told us, that you need 4 types of pesticides at any one time in places like Samburu. You need a pesticide for air control. You need pesticide for motorized knapsacks. You need also pesticides for the hand sprayers. But Mr. Speaker, when the government supplies pesticides, most of the times, the people on the ground find that they've been supplying insecticides which can only be used by aircraft, and therefore they do not have pesticides to control hoppers on the ground. Mr. Speaker, the situation is really grave. In Tharaka Nithi, Mr. Speaker, we didn't know that that it is the locals who had been deployed to spray the hoppers. Mr. Speaker, if you see those hoppers, then you understand where this country is headed to. If nothing is done urgently and very, very urgently, Mr. Speaker, the second generation locusts, first generation has come and gone. The second generation of locusts is going to be a devastating situation in this country. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Senator Mtula Kalonzo Jr.
Mr. Speaker, I attended the meeting between the chair committee and the cabinet secretary, and I want to thank.
I can see a lot of interest, Senator Mtula, so 3 minutes so that we give everybody an opportunity.
Speaker, you should have given me 5 since I was the first one. Anyway, I think the matter was handled well. I still think there's a lot of questions that have not been answered, and I'm going to highlight them so that when the committee comes back, they can answer them. One, it appears as if the cabinet secretary is tied to the procurement because he says the procurement of this pesticide is done by private individuals sent by GOK. That left me with a question mark. The second one is this. While explaining why he was misquoted about the yellow locusts, which were hanging around a tree, and since they were on retirement, they were laying eggs, he said the reason they could not spray these particular locusts is because they were next to human population. So we began wondering, and he also said, Mr. Speaker, that once they spray a particular area, you take off for 1 day. So I just wondered what happens to the air that is there for 1 day. Does it remain stagnant or does it disappear? We need a comprehensive answer on the side effects of this pesticide. I am not persuaded that you can kill locusts and not kill bees or other insects. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense logically, although I'm not a veterinarian. 3, is it not possible, Chairman and Speaker, I mean, the country relies on agriculture. This is our livelihood. We are talking about food security. Why is this not an emergency? For purposes of procurement, for purposes of deploying KDF or whoever it is that you need to deploy, because the number of NYS officers they are talking about, Mr. Speaker, per county, 50, is not enough. It's hardly enough. Kitui is suffering. And lastly, isn't this a time, Mr. Speaker, the national government through the contingency fund would start buying strategic grain reserve? We are going to have a famine. And lastly, senators, we need to pray for this country. This is a curse, like it was a curse in Egypt. Thank you.
Before I give the next senator, let me make a brief communication. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from Dagoretti North constituency in Nairobi County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Senator Harake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank Senator Ndwiga for the efforts he's made to give us answers on the locust invasion in our counties. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this is not being handled with the urgency it deserves. At what point do we really deal with these things as an emergency? And looking at these things and with the threat of coronavirus, I shudder to think that if anything happened to human beings, what we would be doing. Mr. Speaker, the locust was there, I was told, in Turkana even before it came to our counties, and when this was highlighted, nobody really took action. And so it's all good to have all these things being done, but it's a little bit too little too late, because all the larvae in the different places are going to just hatch, and we're going to have a vicious cycle if this is not done very well. So this should be treated with the emergency measures that it deserves to be treated with. We need to hear what emergency response actions the ministry is putting in place, and if they need backup, we need to see that they are reaching out if they are not able to do it themselves. Mr. Speaker, this is an emergency. Foot and mouth is also coming on, and I've raised that. We're going to see a disaster in waiting. We need action that is emergency-based, not just the kind that we're hearing here, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Senator Nairobi to acknowledge the citizen, Senator Wetangula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, allow me to acknowledge on behalf of the Senate and to welcome this group from Dagoretti North constituency. This is one of the 17 constituencies in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, they're not students and teachers, but they're part of a cohort of young men and women who are part of a mentorship program under the Office of the Senator of Nairobi. And I want to thank your office, because you've been gracious enough. This is the third lot from the 17 constituencies that has come here. They've been welcomed very well in the Senate and in the National Assembly. They've been shown around and they've had lunch. Mr. Speaker, for many of them who are getting active in the political discourse in this country and in work within their community, coming here is a big thing, and they really appreciate it. But the one thing that they asked me to do after we had lunch, Mr. Speaker, was to make sure that one day in the future, their children will see their names on the Hansard, Mr. Speaker. So I know you didn't have the list, but I know them. I can see Fauzia, Mr. Speaker. I can see Simon Tiema, Eric Nyandiko, Dennis Kombo. Mr. Speaker, I can see Caxton. Actually, that uses a nickname. There's Pamela Liru, Patrick Sabula, Janet Mungina, Mr. Speaker, Dennis Ogubi, Clinton Opala, Chrisabel Ngoya. I saw Justin Muli, and I also saw Mwangi from my office. Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for accommodating them and for allowing young Kenyans to be able to experience what it means for us as we legislate for them. I hope other senators will also similarly invite people from their counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me just to point out that from the statement read out by Senator Ndwiga, however, Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear senators applauding when I mentioned the names. Maybe just one round of applause. Senator Kwamboka is also here. She's in the Nairobi County delegation. And we had Senator Omanga, who was somewhere. And Senator Beth Mugo, who was their member of parliament before, Mr. Speaker. And you can see they're very happy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me just go to the statement by Senator Ndwiga. I think I want to thank the committee because we can hear their concerns from what they have gotten, and they've given us, Mr. Speaker, a way forward. What is alarming, Mr. Speaker, is that the areas where these locusts are now breeding, these are areas of Samburu North, Baragoi. You talk about Baringo, Tiati. Mr. Speaker, these are areas, Kapedo, where even when we've had security issues, and I don't know if it's fortunate or I had the privilege of leading a team from both the National Assembly and the Senate in the last parliament when there was high cases of insecurity. Those are areas that even the security forces are afraid of accessing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the committee should let us know what is being done to make sure that that new breeding ground is either fully sprayed, not just aerial, but that something is being done there. Because these are the areas that are safer, Mr. Speaker, even as we protect them. The locusts that come from Baragoi and Kapedo and those places, Tiati, Nginyang, ETC, Luruk, do not know that they are in a hardship area. They will still come to our farms in the areas that are peaceful, Mr. Speaker. Apart from that, Mr. Speaker, we just extend further support to the committee to make sure that they truly get to the bottom of this matter, because as Senator Mutula said, this is an impending disaster, Mr. Speaker, if not managed well, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Wetangula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank Senator Ndwiga for the comprehensive statement. We didn't expect anything less. He's one of the very thorough chairmen. I've had an opportunity to attend his committee, and I was quite impressed in the manner he runs the committee. Mr. Speaker, like my colleagues have said, it is surprising that the government has not declared this a national disaster. You may recall, Mr. Speaker, last year, when I asked for a statement in this House on the security challenges in Turkana, the distinguished senator for Turkana told the House that, in fact, part of the problem in Turkana was that locusts had ravaged the entire county of all green vegetation. Nobody appeared to have paid attention, Mr. Speaker. Turkana, being an ASAL area, is just an ideal ground for locusts to breed. Today, Mr. Speaker, more than half the country is under locust threat. They have ravaged crops, they have ravaged vegetation, and like the senator from Makuene asks, when you spray locusts, do you save bees? What about the animals that eat the grass on which you have sprayed? They'll either be contaminated to pass on poison to those who will eat them, or they will die. And Mr. Speaker, we need an emergency plan. I saw somebody on TV, some villager in one of the counties, crying aloud that these insects have not developed wings yet. they can't fly. Come and spray them and kill them before they fly off. Nobody turned up. Sending, Mr. Speaker, NYS young boys and girls to battle locusts without the technical know-how doesn't help. It's like I saw some young man with a Kalashnikov on his shoulder, a whistle and a stick, chasing locusts in Kitui. Mr. Speaker, that is not the way to deal with locusts. We want an emergency plan. In a situation like this, Mr. Speaker, the president should in fact deploy the military with equipment to go everywhere and spray these insects and kill them. The WHO has already issued an alert. FAO has issued an alert. The UN has issued an alert. And we who are affected, Mr. Speaker, are just having it business as usual. Ministers making very bizarre statements that they'll just age and die, and so on, Mr. Speaker. We need urgent solution, and I want to urge, Mr. Speaker, that you obligate the chair of the committee, as long as we have this menace, to give a fortnightly update to this House on what is going on with the locust invasion in the country, because it's not something that we should take lightly. It is hitting the poorest of the poor because food security is smashed, and we must all stand up, Mr. Speaker, and be counted. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I saw some clip that counties must have also emergency activities to fight locusts. But we also know, Mr. Speaker, that they have got very limited capacity in terms of finances. The contingent fund of the state Kenya is held at the national government level. So we also want the chairman of the Committee of Agriculture to tell this House what level of collaboration and cooperation is going on between counties and the national government in the war against locusts. What equipment has been deployed and how much money is being sent to the counties, with, of course, the usual protection against corruption that is ravaging each county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Chair of Agriculture. He's really gone out of his way to get responses to this House. The failure of this presidential system that we have is that we are putting Senator Ndwiga on the spot to answer to the inefficiencies and the laziness of a ministry over which he has no control. And I look forward to a day when Senator Ndwiga will be the Minister for Agriculture, answering questions from members rather than acting as a conveyor to go to Kilimo House to bring half-baked answers. So, Speaker, the CS Agriculture came here, and it was clear the government has no strategy. It has got many tactics, and I think their main strategy is to pray that God blows a wind that will take the locust to another country, to pass the problem to another country. Mr. Speaker, the chair, I did hear it in his statement, but the CS had agreed that he would bring to Parliament an economical and social impact analysis of the locust infestation. And that should go on record so that in 2 weeks, that comes to the House. Finally, there are those who have been eating grasshoppers as a delicacy. And we are interested in these locusts. But our worry is that we are being told not to eat them after they've been sprayed. My question, Mr. Speaker, if this pesticide is indeed safe, as the ministry says it is safe, why are we being stopped from eating those locusts? It means that the ministry is lying to this republic. Minister Munya must tell us the truth. Is the pesticide safe or is it not? If it is safe, let him allow us to eat the locusts when they venture into our regions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are you talking on behalf of all the people of Nyanza and Western? and Western.
Mr. Speaker, Bungoma included.
Senator Mohamud.
Mr. Speaker, let me also thank the chair for this statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think Kenyans are surviving because of the grace of God. To have made it to March 2020, I think we thank God. With all the challenges, from locusts to coronavirus, to impeding alleged terrorist attack, to a bad economy, everything, I think, name it. I think the country actually is facing serious dangers. So, Speaker, sir, locust Hitherto they were called desert locusts, and they used to be known only in desert areas. What we are facing today, we are told, has happened in the last 70 years. I think today, many parts of the world are actually seeing this as a new weapon of mass destruction, because it destroys your very livelihood, crops, vegetation, everything. Yet in Kenya, when this thing came first, it was too remote in the remote areas. It came slowly, now it's everywhere. The first minister told us to take pictures of this thing and send it to see an insect which looks like locust, a big joke. The second minister talked of some niggers, I don't know, he said they were not dangerous. They are old. Today, these things have actually given birth. In fact, where they were before, they have now left the larvae behind, and these are going to wake up and become now a disaster. And up to today, there's no strategy in place. There's no strategy. That's like many other things. So I think, first of all, we need prayers. For this country, we need prayers. We are joking because we are also, in that middle of things, we are also in a very confused political environment. So, Speaker, sir, this country must wake up to the reality and deal with the problems the Kenyans are facing, including the locust menace. I think, if not, I think very soon we might face a revolution from Kenyans. I thank you.
Senator Ongeri Samson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to also weigh in on this matter of locusts. One of the things that has come out quite clearly is the effect of food security for this country. And if you look, the twin major areas of concern for Kenyans is agriculture or food security, and on the other side is the health of our Kenyans. From either way, it's quite clear that there is need for us to be able to have a concerted approach on how to handle these emergencies. I was present, Mr. Speaker, when the CS Agriculture made a presentation to this House. And initially, I was skeptical, but at the end of that presentation, if all those measures that he had put before us can be effected, then I'm quite satisfied that that presentation was quite up to date, and they were agreeable on the measures that must be done, particularly the second generation of the locusts that will be able to develop after this period of time. And unfortunately, fortunately for farmers, there's a lot of rain. But unfortunately for us, the locusts tend to be dormant during this period of time, and they resurface when it's warm and they are able to multiply many more times. So I expect, Mr. Speaker, a very high intensity of locust production in billions, not in millions, and therefore we must be prepared to be able to deal with that menace of that scale, at that level of the scale. And more so, they will be able to ravage every single greenery that you see around, and therefore food shortage is going to be a reality rather than anything else. The only thing I can say that we have not planted the crop at the moment. It's a planting season, and therefore we must be able to take stock of this menace before the planting is done and the green products come up, because if we don't do so, it will destroy the future of this nation, and the food basket will obviously dwindle. With those few remarks, I support the statement by the chair of the committee, and also follow up on the promises made on this floor by the CS Agriculture, on whether those measures are being carried out effectively or they have again relaxed because they've appeared before us, and therefore they thought the matter is over.
Senator Wario.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama kuunga mkono ripoti fupi iliyosomwa na mwenyekiti wa Agriculture ambayo mimi pia ni member. Mheshimiwa Spika, hakika nzige ambao wanapatikana sehemu nyingi ya Kenya wameleta maafa nyingi, hasa sehemu niliyotoka ya Tana River. Nzige wako kwa wingi. Tulipata baraka nyingi ya mvua hivi karibuni, na sehemu zote zimekuwa na nyasi tele, na hasa mazingara yote yamekuwa ni mazingara mazuri ya kuvutia, na hasa maisha yetu pia yameanza kubadilika. Lakini tangu nzige wameanza kupatikana, mazingara hayo yameanza kuharibika. Nzige wamekuwa wengi, na hakika wanakula miche zote ambazo zimekuwa wakati huu ambao tumepata mvua. Na kwa hakika nzige hawa wameleta maafa ya nyasi, hata kwa wakulima wale ambao wanalima sehemu ya Mto Tana na wale wako katika sehemu za irrigation huko sehemu ya Tana River. Na pia nilipoangalia katika wilaya jirani pia, katika hizo makaunti, hizo nzige zinapatikana kwa wingi. Kaunti hawana nguvu ya kupigana na nzige, na kwa hivyo nzige wanaendelea kuzaa na wanakuwa wengi maradufu na kuweza kutapakaa katika sehemu nyingi. Na hasa kama wakati huu wizara husika haitachukua mikakati muafaka ya kuweza kupigana na nzige hawa, basi mvua ile ambayo ilikuwa ni baraka kwetu itabadilika na iwe ni shida kubwa. Na hasa tungeomba Kenya nzima watu wakuje pamoja waombe Mungu, na hasa vile seneta rafiki yangu alivyosema, huu ni wakati ambao wanajeshi ya Kenya wanakaa hakuna kitu kubwa wanafanya kwa wakati huu. Waweze kuingia katika nzige na waweze kuwapuliza dawa katika sehemu hizo ili tuweze kukabiliana na maradhi hii ya nzige. Asante kwa kunipa nafasi, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Finally, Senator Pareno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank Senator Ndwiga for again coming up with this statement, noting that this is not the first time that this House is handling the issue of locust, Mr. Speaker. I was just reading a verse in the Bible, the book of Exodus, which reads, "And the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over Egypt, so that locusts swarm over the land and devour everything growing in the fields, everything left by the whole. Never before had there been such a plague of locusts, nor there ever again." Mr. Speaker, I think we need to repent as a country. This is the first time I've had, since I was born, and I'm a bit old right now, I have never seen this kind of locust before. So these are signs that we should repent as a country, that there is something that we are not doing right. Probably all the countries that are affected should repent. We should turn on to the Lord to ask for forgiveness. We have coronavirus all over. We have attacks all over. Mr. Speaker, I think these are signs that we need to do something right. And Mr. Speaker, we are told that in the last 70 years we have not seen such kind of locust. So if it has taken us 70 years to see such devastating effects, in the last invasion, I'm informed by Senator Wetangula, is that it was last in 1953, before some of us were anywhere being born. So, Mr. Speaker, this is serious. I hope the ministry is going to give us answers, Mr. Speaker, and we hope that it will not get any worse than it is already. We are already feeling it. It is sad that it is food for others, but for some of us, it is signs of devastation. It is signs of hunger to come, and a lot of probably drought. It is just about to be. We are just about to start the planting season. The rains have just come, and you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, the rains are here, but the locusts are here.
What's your point of order, Senator Nderitu?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I followed how the senator started by telling us she has already gotten solution. We can turn to the Lord. All of a sudden again, she has said the ministry should give a solution. I thought the first solution was the best, and then the other is just preliminary from where I sat.
Mr. Speaker, we are told in the Bible that you help yourself so that God can help you. So we have to start first by helping ourselves in the ministries, helping ourselves in our backyards.
The time is up. Senator Ndwiga, just wind up, then we move on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleagues who have contributed to this statement. Mr. Speaker, it is true we found that the county governments are very, very active on the ground, but they are handicapped by a lack of pesticides and lack of protective clothing. Mr. Speaker, you can imagine, like places we went in Tharaka, you find women and young men spraying these locusts without any protective gear at all. And then, Mr. Speaker, in Samburu, we were informed that we saw, and because this I want to address to my dear friend Senator Kajwang about eating locusts. When these locusts are sprayed overnight, the following day, the ones which did not die, they actually, these things are carnivorous. The following day, they turn around and eat the ones which have died, and then they also die. So that tells you that this pesticide is not safe. When the locusts which have been sprayed are eaten by the others, they also die. They also die. But Mr. Speaker, most importantly, is the issue that Senator Sakaja raised, that we need to find a mechanism of going to Samburu North. Because if we don't do that, Mr. Speaker, that's a very fertile breeding ground. Kapendo, Samburu North, and Baringo. Nobody goes there because of insecurity. Mr. Speaker, the locals in Samburu are very, very worried. They say if nothing happens, if government does not find a way of going to those areas, then all the work that's being done now might not be useful. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Senators, I also want to join in thanking the Chair, Agriculture. He has actually, if all Chair moved with speed and reported to this House the way the Chair, Agriculture has done, we would be doing very well. I just want to encourage you, like the Senators have asked, this is an ongoing problem, and that we would require an update after every 2 weeks so that we are able to know exactly what is going on. And those of you who want to read the Bible also about locusts, you can read 2 Chronicles 7:13. It also talks about locusts, and I agree that we need to pray and we need to repent, because the locusts are also communicating something. And this is biblical, both in Exodus and in 2 Chronicles. But again, God helps you, helps himself. That's what we say where I come from with my senator. Next, Senator Sakaja.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for that advice, that once we spray, we pray. And then repent. And to deal with the locusts. Mr. Speaker, I just seek your indulgence. You know, some things when they happen, they can cost one politically. There are only 3 I didn't mention of my group from Dagoretti North, and I might be in trouble on the ground. Mr. Speaker, there is William Nganga, Lillian Babu, Fatuma Bakari, and Anthony Maina, who are as well from there. And I forgot to say that in line with the spirit of BBI, these groups that have been coming from all the constituencies in Nairobi are from all the political parties. We have them from ODM, from Wiper, from Jubilee, from Ford Kenya. Senator Wetangula has quite some support in this town, Mr. Speaker. Thank you once more and for helping me salvage that. Thank you.
Senator Beth Mugo, you wanted to say something before? Yeah.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me the opportunity also to add my voice to welcome very warmly into the Senate the group from Dagoretti, my friends from Dagoretti, and to appreciate them very much. They are very hardworking and very development conscious. Karibuni.
Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr.
Speaker, I was just thinking aloud, and I thought I would bring this to your attention and the attention of the chair, that I think the last time we spoke about the coronavirus, the executive took us so seriously that the executive order was issued the following day. I was thinking that in light of what is happening, and most of the senators have said that this is a disaster stroke emergency or both, I think the committee should not wait. We should pass a resolution here for the executive to have this as a national disaster and set aside funds for this exercise. The things that Senator Wetangula is talking about, the KDF can only come in once there is a disaster. That request can only come in once you declare an emergency. And I think that in the course of this week, I don't think we should wait. I think we should have a motion. Thank you.
Okay, Senators, next statement is from Senator Falahada. I'm not seeing you on the screen. Okay, Senator for Bungoma.
Madam Speaker, I think this House must be proactive, and the point Mutula Kilonzo Jr. has raised must elicit some response from the chair of the committee or the chair, the speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we can't and we shouldn't wait for the national government to declare this a disaster, this House can pass a motion and call upon the government to move with speed and declare this a national disaster. I want to suggest, Mr. Speaker, that since the chair of the Committee of Agriculture is taking the lead, he drafts a motion and brings to the House this week, probably tomorrow afternoon or Thursday. We debate and pass a unanimous House resolution. This is the House that represents counties that are ravaged by these insects. Then once we pass this motion, Mr. Speaker, we pass it on to the executive to implement.
Chair of Agriculture Committee, what's your response on that?
Yes, Madam Speaker, the military is already involved in this exercise. But having listened to my two colleagues, I think it is apt, and my committee will do that. I think because we need more action. We need more action on the ground than what we have got, including, Mr. Speaker, what I've just said and what Senator Sakaja had said. But there are areas that need military intervention, not just these other interventions. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, yes, we will be proactive. We will do a motion which we will bring to the House. Thank you.
Timeline, Senator?
On Thursday.
So Thursday, we expect a motion on that. Thank you. The next statement, Senators, is from Senator Falahada.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker. And I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the security status in the country. In the statement, the committee should outline the measures taken by the security agencies following an alert issued by the U.S. Embassy on the planned terror attack at some major hotels in Nairobi, and state measures that have been put in place to ensure that the citizens receive the right information to avoid panic and unnecessary tension. And third, outline the preparedness of the relevant authorities to handle such a threat should be materialized. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I will now give a few members to ventilate on that statement. Senator Haji Mohammed Yusuf, who is using that card? Oh, Senator Sakaja.
Sorry,
That's a wrong card.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, it's just being a creature of habit. where I normally sit, but the card was Senator Yusuf Haji's. I want to thank Senator Falhada for requesting this statement, and I hope the committee will actually look into it. Of course, Madam Speaker, we live in a day and age of both threats to security, but also propaganda and fake news. So the first job of the committee, I'd advise them, is to ascertain the veracity and also to let Kenyans know the channels through which such information is supposed to be shared. Because sometimes you find something on WhatsApp has just been shared. Yesterday, there was an audio clip being shared of somebody declaring the toll of coronavirus in this country. An audio clip of a press conference, and somebody was speaking, saying there have been I don't know how many cases, and that was completely fake. People sat somewhere in a room and recorded themselves, Madam Speaker. So we're living in that era, and the government was clear. There is no case. There was no such press conference. It was audio. I'm sure many of you had it. So in that same breath, Madam Speaker, we will find out. Fortunately, the committee not only deals with security, but also foreign relations. You remember when we had the Dusit attack, there were misgivings that there was probably a lapse in the security intelligence protocols between the countries, or no information was shared, because there was supposed to be earlier meeting of a foreign country in that hotel, and it was moved, and there were those questions. So we'll just take the opportunity, in as much as that might be fake news, that specific one, but to establish those protocols in terms of when such a thing happens, how do we inform Kenyans so that we avoid panic, as Senator Falhada has said. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Wario Goli Juma.
Asante Mheshimiwa B Speaker kwa kunipa hii nafasi. Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwa hakika usalama wa nchi hii ni kitu muhimu sana. Ili kupunguza utatanishi na mambo ya kuzungumza katika mitaa na hofu nyingi, ni vyema kabisa tuweze kuelezwa kinaga ubwaga hali ya usalama vile ilivyo hapa nchini. Tukiangazia huko sehemu wa Wajir, Mandera, tuliona vile mambo ilikuwa inafanyika jana juzi. Hali ilikuwa ni kulumbana, kulikuwa na watu kupigana risasi hapa na pale. Kunayo majangili wanaingia sehemu hiyo, ambayo sisi tunaona katika runinga na tunaangalia katika vyombo vya habari ya kwamba kuna hali ya kutatanisha pande hiyo. Mheshimiwa Speaker, hali ya usalama si pekee mabunduki na marisasi na kupigana na kulumbana. Hali ya usalama inatokea upande ya magonjwa ya corona pia. Mimi nilishuka katika uwanja wa Wilson jana. Niliona mtu amenipima kichwa, akaniambia uko sawa. Mimi nilipotoka hapo nikajiangalia, nikasema huyu alijua haraka mimi vipi kama mimi niko sawa. Sababu kwanza si kutoka China, nilitoka Tana River, na kule nijuavyo ni usalama, hakuna coronavirus. Sasa tukishaangalia usalama katika mambo ya kulumbana, tukienda kwa magonjwa ya corona, na tukienda katika uwanja zetu, ukiteremuka tu unapimwa, unaambiwa joto yako iko juu mara iko chini. Sasa sijajua vile joto ya mtu inaweza kujua kama corona iko na wewe au haiko na wewe. Sisi tunatoka sehemu ya joto ya Tana River. Kwa hakika tukiteremuka kwa ndege lazima joto yetu iko juu. Ukinipima, ukiniambia wewe joto yako iko juu na uko hivyo, sasa mimi nitakuwa na wasiwasi. Nikifika kwa bibi yangu nitasema nilipofika pale uwanjani, kuna mtu alinifuata, alinipima hapa kwa kichwa na kitu kama bunduki hivi, kisha akaniambia joto yako iko juu.
Senator Sakaja, hoja yako ni gani?
Speaker, nimemsikiza vizuri sana mwenzangu Senator, na ni kama anataka kutuletea hali la taharuki, kwa sababu Senator Wario anasema kwamba alipimwa akaambiwa kwa sawa, lakini ako na tashwishi kama kweli yako sawa. Kwani ni vyema basi yeye kuja bunge kutuambukiza corona kama yeye mwenyewe ako na tashwishi yako sawa, ama angeenda kwanza hospitali kama alikuwa anaona ile kipimo ambayo alipigwa katika kiwanja la ndege labda haitoshi, Speaker. na ni njia gani angejua kama ako sawa bila kutoa taarifa kwa bunge, kwanza kwenda hospitali? Madam Speaker, tuna wasiwasi na tumekaa karibu sana naye. Akikohoa tutatoroka.
Senator Wario, clarify as you proceed. I see another point of order from Senator Nderitu.
Asanti, Bi Speaker. Nimemsikiza kwa makini kabisa. Kabla hajasema vile alivyoanza, mimi nilisikia alisema alipopimwa kichwa. Kwa hivyo nikawa na hali ya kutoelewa vile alivyopimwa kichwa, na unajua mtu akipimwa kichwa inamaanisha jambo lingine. Kwa hivyo mimi nikawa ninangoja atamaliza vipi, kwa sababu kama alipimwa kichwa, hiyo imeniletea shida. Wacha hii hali ya taharuki inayompata senator wa Nairobi. Yeye alisema alipimwa kichwa. Mimi nilidhania angesema alipopimwa joto, lakini sasa tena ameenda mambo ya joto, analeta mambo mengine. Kwa hivyo hii mambo mengine nasema akirudi kwa bibi yake asema mambo ya joto na alianza kupimwa kichwa. Kwa hivyo mimi naona kuna hali ya hatari.
Senator College.
Asante Bi Speaker. Bi Speaker, nimewasikiza vizuri marafiki zangu Senator Sakaja na Senator Nderitu, chairman wangu ya Devolution. Kwa kweli hali ya kutatanisha ni ya kwamba ukiteremuka kwa ndege kuna kifaa inaletwa karibu na kichwa chako. Si peke yangu, hata hawa pia waliwahi kupimwa, mimi ninajua. Na wakati unapimwa hivyo lazima utafikiria, leo unapimwa sehemu yako ya kichwa, mtu amekuja amekugusa kwa kichwa hivi. Sasa ashajua haraka namna gani kama wewe umeambukizwa au haujaambukizwa. Katika hali hiyo sasa lazima kutakuwa na taharuki, mutafaruku na hasa kutatanika hapa na pale. Na hiyo si kwangu peke yake, ni kwa abiria wote waliotoka kwa ndege. Na hiyo kama hujawahi kupimwa, jaribu leo kesho kusafiri ukipitia Wilson ama Jomo Kenyatta, utapimwa hata wewe utajulikana. Lakini la ziada ni ya kwamba nikiendelea, Bi Speaker, coronavirus ilipatikana sehemu ya uzunguni na hasa sehemu ya bara Asia kule kwa Wachina. Kule ndiko watu maafa nyingi sana zimetoka. Na sisi tunatakikana tuweze kuangalia watu ambayo wametoka katika bara hizo, na hasa kuangalia usafiri ya wale watu wa kukuja pande hii. Hasa huku kwetu ndani ya kutoka Mombasa mpaka hapa mpaka siku ya leo, mimi sijawahi kusikia kwamba kuna corona Kenya. Na kama kuna corona Kenya, hatutaki kutatanika na wala kuwa na wasiwasi. Tunataka serikali itoke nje kabisa, iseme kuna cases zimepatikana na kuna hospitali imetengwa kwa watu ya corona, ili tusiweze kutatanika, ili tusikuwe na wasiwasi, ili wale watu waliotuchagua pia wakituuliza tutawaambia kuna hospitali fulani imetengwa kwa watu wa corona na kuna watu kiasi fulani wamelazwa katika hospitali hiyo. Wakati dunia imenyamaza ya Kenya.
There is a point of order from Senator Christine Zawadi.
Asante Bi Speaker. Nami nimesimama katika hoja ya nidhamu nikimshangaa anazungumza lakini bado simpati. Manake mjadala ulioko hapa ni wa kuhusu usalama. Na haikuwa mambo ya corona. Sasa najaribu kufuata lakini naona sipati picha. Asante.
Asante Bi Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. But there is another point of order from Senator Kachwang.
Madam Speaker, Swahili was declared a national disaster in Homa Bay County. So I shall not go there. But could the point of order raised by Senator Zawadi confirm the fears of Senator for Laikipia, that indeed our good brother from Tana River, the head was checked and the head indeed is not correct? Because Senator Professor Ngeri has raised the same thing here, that how did we get into corona and yet it was about insecurity? Madam Speaker, could you maybe direct that the good senator goes and seeks a second opinion on that matter?
Thank you very much. Nilikuwa nafikiri nimesikia Kiingereza mingi na Kiswahili mingi. That's why I was also trying to understand where we are going, because we have diverted from the security concern from Senator Falhada, and we are now in the other disaster of coronavirus. Senators, let's stick to that, although we know it's another dangerous.
Asante Bi Speaker. Bi Speaker, unajua Kiswahili hasa ni jangwa kwa watu wengine, hasa wale waliotoka magharibi ya Kenya. Nikiwa ninaongea hapa inaweza kuwa inawajia mara mbili na hawezi wakaelewa, lakini vile navyoeleza ni ya kwamba ukiwa unaongea usalama wa nchi inaweza kuwa inatokea kwa magonjwa. Usalama inaweza kuwa ni usalama ya chakula, pengine tumbo yako iko na njaa, na usalama inaweza kuwa ni usalama ambayo mnalumbana na mabunduki. Yote hayo inapambana na usalama katika nchi ya Kenya. Kama wewe ni mgonjwa, wewe hauko salama, na wakati corona inakukujia pia wewe hauko salama. Nami pia nilikuwa ninavumbua na nilikuwa ninaeleza kinaga ubaga hali ya usalama na utatanishi ambayo unaletwa na ugonjwa ya corona, hasa ile ambayo inatoka katika bara ya Asia na inakuja hapa. Na ukiwa katika nyumba hii, wakati mambo yanazungumzwa
Saa imeisha. Thank you very much. You made a point. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Asante. Bispika, jambo ambalo Mheshimiwa Wario ameleta katika mjadala huu ni jambo ambalo pia limenipa utata, kwa sababu katika mitandao yetu ya kijamii, Bispika, katika bunge la kitaifa la Iran, wabunge 23 wamepatikana na ugonjwa huu. Kwa hivyo jambo ambalo yeye alisema ni jambo ambalo sisi kama wajumbe ambapo wakati mwingi tunakutana hapa, ni jambo ambalo tunafaa kujadilia, ili kama yeye anajishuku aweze kupimwa, tujue kwamba tunakaa na mtu ambaye afya yake haina utata. Na lakini mujiulize kama wajumbe, mahali tunakaa katika mikutano tunasalimiana, mmoja wetu akipatwa itakuwa vipi? Hivyo ni jambo ambalo kidogo tusichukulie kwa kijuujuu, ni jambo ambalo hata sisi kama wajumbe tunafaa kujadiliana likitokea hapa bunge ambapo tunakutana na tunakumbatiana, ni nini kitafanyika.
Lakini remember, Senator Mutula, you should have raised a question on coronavirus and Iran, so that we prosecute it.
Jambo la pili ni jambo la usalama. Jana tulikuwa tumekutana mahali katika hoteli wa kifahari, tukaambiwa kwamba hoteli huo kulikuwa na alata ambayo imesemekana na Senator Faria. Na serikali haizungumzii maneno haya. Tumeanza kidogo kujiuliza kama ingefaa serikali impatie kazi kama mtu ambaye alikuwa anafanya kama mtua, wakati alikuwa anatokea kila wakati akipatia taarifa. Kwa sababu hauwezi kutofautisha taarifa za uongo na taarifa za ukweli. Ujui msemaji wa serikali anasema uongo ama anasema ukweli. Leo atazungumza hili, kesho azungumze lile. Kwa hivyo jambo hili kwamba hoteli zote za kifahari, zote 5-star hotels zote Nairobi ziko na alert kama hii, ni jambo ambalo serikali inafaa kujitoka cheza haraka iwezekanavyo, watupatie taarifa ya ukweli, tujue ni nini ama ni mtu ambaye ajaribu kututisha. Kuna ugonjwa wa corona, kuna alert za majambazi kama hawa, kuna nzige. Jameni, tutakimbilia wapi? Jameni, tutaenda wapi? Asante.
Senator Gona Christine Zawadi.
Asante Bispika. Nami vile vile nimesimama nizungumzie hili swala la usalama. Ni kweli kabisa Kenya hatuna usalama, hasa kwa mipaka yetu. Jana tulionyeshwa vile kina mama walikuwa wanakimbia na watoto wakati watu wakifyatuliana risasi. Na pia vile vile leo asubuhi nikiangalia runinga niliona walikuwa wanaelezea mipaka yetu ambayo iko sehemu za Turkana na Samburu, wakionyesha namna watoto wadogo miaka 10.
There is nothing which is, that's not coupled with terror alert coming from the country to alert Kenyans. In fact, the concern now the member raises, having been raised by the American embassy, what are we doing about it? But sometimes I think in Kenya we take things very lightly because the information is not forthcoming to citizens from the government. And that's why people are a bit confused. And the danger is that we are going to take this thing lightly now because it's a usual thing. That is going to be said this day, terror alert, and you are caught unaware. But as Speaker, yesterday I saw a notice by the police that there was nothing happening in Mandera, whereas there was crisis in Mandera where the border war is going on, and our people were actually terrorized, and they were really in the real danger the whole day yesterday. But then here our police say there was nothing going on in Mandera. This is the sort of information we give out to Kenyans. This is very serious, and I think the committee in dealing with the Ministry of Interior, they must be asked how are they dealing with the terror issues and the threat to Kenyans in a very structured manner. I thank you, and I think the information is timely, and that's what you dealt with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senators. The statement therefore stands committed to the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations, and we expect an answer for them in 14 days. Thank you. Honorable Senators, for the convenience of the House, I'm going to defer all orders. Order, Senator Mutula. Honorable Senators, for the convenience of the House, we'll be doing divisions tomorrow. So I would like to defer order number 8, order number 9, order number 10, order number 11, order number 12, order number 13, order number 14. Next order.
Order number 15, the Lifestyle Audit number 2 bill, Senate Bills number 21 of 2019. Second reading.
Senator Faria Ali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Lifestyle Audit Bill number 2, Senate Bill number 21 of 2019, to be read a second time. Madam Speaker, this bill, first of all, what gave me the idea of coming up with this bill is when His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta had said that public officers should undergo a lifestyle audit in 2018, and then there were a lot of response to that, saying that there is no legal framework. And as a result of that, I had a friend who works in the UK, and I asked if there was a legal framework of such a nature, Madam Speaker, and that is where, in 2018, so it took a long time and thorough thinking in terms of the process. And then I asked the person to send me the legal framework. Obviously, some of those issues were not like, we can't implement in our country because we still have a longer way to go in terms of how we fight, but we implemented some of this. And Madam Speaker, before I even continue, I wish to thank the legal department in terms of they continuously assist us. They have a lot of knowledge. They do a lot of research. And Madam Speaker, I could not come up with such a detailed and thorough bill without their support. So on onset, Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you then. Madam Speaker, the purpose of the bill, the main object of the bill is to put in place legal framework for undertaking lifestyle audit in on public officers. In creating this legal framework, the bill seeks to incorporate the values and the principles of governance under Article 10 and Chapter 6 of the Constitution into the public service. Madam Speaker, there is needless to say that corruption is pandemic in this country, Madam Speaker, because of the, even when I sit in Finance Committee, Madam Speaker, every time we were told the GDP has grown with this percentage. And when the GDP grows in our country, this is supposed to be equated to the number of people who gets out of poverty, Madam Speaker. And that is, it doesn't translate. Actually, more people go into poverty as our GDP is also increasing. So that tells you that the money of this country is in the pocket of few Kenyan individuals through corruption. And therefore, Madam Speaker, needs us also to say that corruption affects security, it affects, poverty levels in the country, it affects how healthy we are, it affects how education we are, and it affects the dream the fighters of independence in this country had to ensure that we have, a prosperous country where the economic gains of this country is felt all the corners of this country, Madam Speaker. And because of that, Madam Speaker, and because of corruption, these dreams are still not realized, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so this is the situation despite empirical evidence showing that there is officers living beyond their means. There is no legal framework, Madam Speaker, to put these perpetrators of corruption behind bars, because corruption does not happen in open air. No one will come to the plenary of Senate to say, I'm giving corruption to so and so. And because of the hidden nature of corruption, Madam Speaker, we need a legislation to ensure that the wealth you acquired is explained in a manner that is fair and just to everybody else, and that eradicates finally corruption, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Article 10(2) subsection C of the Constitution states that the national values and the principle of governance include good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability. Indeed, Chapter 6 of the Constitution makes further detailed provision in the responsibility of leadership, guiding principles and leadership, integrity, and conduct of the public officers. Madam Speaker, following the statutes have been enacted, among others, that further the provision of the leadership and integrity to deter corruption and other economic crimes with respect to public officers. Madam Speaker, the acts that have been enacted so far is Anti-Corruption and Economic Act, Public Officer Ethics Act, the Leadership and Integrity Act, the Public Service Values and Principle Act, the Bribery Act, the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act, the Public Finance Management Act, and the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. There is therefore plenty of laws that makes the provision of leadership and integrity, criminalizes corruption and the economic crimes. Corruption, however, is still rampant in this country, and tackling it continues to be a challenge. Investigative agencies still face an uphill task in investigating and establishing corruption and corrupt practices. Noting that some public officers seem to be living large, one of the ways of identifying and rooting corruption may be undertaking lifestyle audit on public officers suspected to be living beyond their means. This is, however, there is, however, no legal framework, Madam Speaker, for carrying out lifestyle audit. This bill, therefore, seeks to cure this lacuna in the making provision for lifestyle audit process. the standard of professional conduct when carrying out lifestyle audit, bodies to be involved in carrying out lifestyle audit, reporting and investigating unexplained wealth, making public declaration of income, assets, and liabilities, referral of matters to the Director of Public Prosecution after conclusion of lifestyle audit, procedures for carrying out lifestyle audit on public officers. Madam Speaker, in terms of overview, the bill provides the standard of professional conduct applicable for carrying out lifestyle audit. This include due care, professionalism, objective, and confidentiality. The bill also states that lifestyle audit may be carried out if there was an indication that a public officer is living beyond their means, the public officer is unable to account for some income, and that the public officer has misappropriated fund under his or her control. The bill, Madam Speaker, mandates the following bodies to undertake lifestyle audit. The Kenya Revenue Authorities for purposes of determining avoidance of taxes and therefore someone growing their wealth. Then the other is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Committee of National Assembly responsible for ethics of members of parliament, the Public Service Commission, the Judiciary Service Commission, Parliamentary Service Commission, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Teacher Service Commission, Defense Council, National Security Council, and the Witness Protection Advisory Board. The bill provides the investigating bodies procure search warrants from courts of law before conducting searches on the public officer. So this now, rests the cases where people are saying people will be targeted using lifestyle audit. There is a clear procedure in terms of who can conduct, when, and in terms of that you need a court order, unless there is otherwise. Before conducting searches, and whom the suspecting holding property and does not collaborate with their lawful income. The bill, however, allows the conduct of searches without a warrant in an exceptional cases where the investigating agencies believe the evidence will be removed or destroyed. The bill makes it an offense for someone to lie to investigating agents in a lifestyle audit process, and those convicted will be liable for imprisonment up to 2 years and a fine of 5 years or both. So, Madam Speaker, this shows that this process of conducting lifestyle audit has been taken very seriously. So people will not be tempted to witch hunt using this bill, Madam Speaker. The bill further allows investigating agencies to apply to court for interim freezing orders with respect to property or accounts subject to lifestyle audit process. The bill allows the High Court to vary or discharge freezing orders on the application of either party. The bill also provides for compensation for public officers against whom a freezing order is made. As you can see, Madam Speaker, also, if you have been targeted unfairly, there is also another process. The law also protects you further, Madam Speaker. It allows, in terms of the forfeiture and other issues. The bill makes provision for members of the public to launch complaints. So it's not only the people who are, mandated to carry out the lifestyle audit. Even the member of the public who can foresee that can see already that there is corruption going on, they can actually report. And Madam Speaker, and probably this law would actually be much more effective also further to, when, protection of witnesses is also enacted so that those people who whistleblow on corruption, like it is envisaged in this law, are actually also protected legally. Madam Speaker, this law, this bill also foresees in terms of deferred prosecution, Madam Speaker. Part 2 of the bill provides for amnesty for corruption cases under deferred prosecution agreement with the Director of Prosecution. Once the investigating body established that there is a reason why and the lifestyle audit is carried out, and it is determined that actually the person could not account for his wealth, then another process is followed, and the matter is referred now to DPP for Office of the Public Prosecutor for now criminal proceedings. And as a result of that, there is also a section on deferred prosecution agreement. Part 2 of the bill provides for amnesty for corruption cases under deferred prosecution agreement with the Director of Public Prosecution. A deferred prosecution agreement in respect of the alleged offense may be entered into before or after the date on which a person is charged with alleged offense, but shall not be entered into after the commencement of trial for the alleged offense. The person who may enter into deferred prosecution agreement include individuals, body corporate, and limited liability partnership. A deferred prosecution may attach the following obligation: to pay to the Director of Public Prosecution a financial penalty, to compensate victims of alleged offense, to compensate for loss of public funds, to pay interest on the lost funds, to surrender all private assets acquired using the public funds, to donate money to charity or any other third, and to disgorge any profits made by the person from the alleged offense. The bill also provides for the deferred prosecution agreement be concluded under the supervision of the High Court judge, who must be convinced that the deferred prosecution agreement is the interest of justice and has a fair and reasonable proportionate terms. Miscellaneous provisions as well. The bill allows that the court to defer publication of information to such a time as it may consider necessary. The bill also provides that the statement of facts contained in the deferred prosecution agreement in a criminal proceeding against a person for alleged offense shall be treated as a proof of formal admission by the person. The bill further amends Section 30 of Public Officer Ethics Act to make the declaration of income, assets, and liability by public officers accessible to the public. And then, consequential of the bill creates a mechanism for undertaking lifestyle audit in public officers. This will go a long way in tackling, arresting corruption in the country. It will also deter corrupt practices by public officers who will be reluctant to steal public funds and flout them in public. Madam Speaker, where the fight against corruption was won in other jurisdictions, Madam Speaker, the benefits in terms of public good associated with that is enormous, Madam Speaker. Like, for example, in Sri Lanka, Madam Speaker, Transparent International promoted, transparent and I'm just giving other ways that other people have fought corruption in terms of participation, in terms of budgeting process, by training the communities to comment on proposed budgets. Before I talked about budget padding in one of my other corruption submission, meaning that by the time the budget is done by the Treasury, some very influential bodies have lobbied, and the prices are sometimes even determined even before the bidding process by people with interest. So by involving the community also, that helps in ensuring that whatever is costed and whatever is budgeted is near the actual, not people throwing in figures that includes their own corruption, Madam Speaker. And then also in terms of in Maldives as well, Transparency also successfully advocated for adoption of one of the world's strongest rights to information laws by putting pressure on local MPs via SMS campaign. And then also communities also monitoring their own projects. And then, Madam Speaker, in a survey that was conducted by KPMG in Hong Kong in 1996, the estimated cost of corruption was estimated to be HKD 230 million, and then the consultants felt that this was an underestimate. And then once there was most of the things, the corruption was under procurement. That was happening. And then also another 2 and 15% under businesses, and then also the businesses themselves. People assume that it is only government that suffer corruption. Even businesses, for them to thrive, they need a corruption-free environment. Because, like, for example, if you have to pay corruption, that is not documented anywhere. And as a business person, you need to cover your cost. The cost of corruption is also included in the pricing of commodities, Madam Speaker. And therefore, you cannot overemphasize how some of these things affect us. Madam Speaker, in Afghanistan as well, once they passed the transformative, when the corruption fighting, was successful, they realized that they saved up to $270 million US, Madam Speaker, annually. And in other places also, there was also another country that saved up to $1.7 million as well through, discontinuation of salary payment. And that happened in this country, Madam Speaker, in terms of security forces. We know that there were so many people who are on the payroll of the security forces, and therefore, and then the government, even in this country, saved a lot of money by doing head counts of security officers, Madam Speaker, and as part of fighting corruption. And another country, in Guinea, they saved $1.7 million as well by just doing a head count of government officials. And then the other issue around fighting, despite passing all these laws, I think the idea of having separation of ethics and anti-corruption is a welcome. Because imagine if you are training children of kindergarten from the beginning, because sometimes you cannot legislate behaviors. So the best thing is now to start training children from kindergarten how the immorality around corruption, Madam Speaker, and that way people know that if you do corruption, then you have more success. But Madam Speaker, this, I think, if we just stop looking at inwardly and looking at ourselves as, we might become a victim of this and that, and we remove ourselves and we think about what is good for this country, Madam Speaker, then this is the bill, Madam Speaker. Because this only will it not allow us to recover public, the looted, but Madam Speaker, it will enable the institutions that are envisaged to carry out the lifestyle audit. Once they arrest some big guys, Madam Speaker, the following thing is, it is also a deterrent, Madam Speaker. Even those who are thinking about it, Madam Speaker, will stop. Because right now what is happening is, I can corrupt my way even into the justice system, Madam Speaker. Corrupt whoever is doing the lifestyle, whoever is doing who is undertaking the act. Corrupt even when I am, I am brought to court, but this is very simple. Your income is here, your liabilities are here, and in terms of, when I look at the difference, in terms of asset and other, then it should be easily to explain. So it simplifies the process of tackling corruption in a major way, in such a way that, Madam Speaker, I feel that the tackling of corruption will be taken to the next level. Madam Speaker, the other issue is, let me just get a few, so that, a few of some of the things that, Madam Speaker, that are very obvious in this bill, Madam Speaker, just to pick out some of the sections. Madam Speaker, even in terms of, sometimes freezing of asset, other things, it can take forever. And then meanwhile, the person whose asset was frozen will be, in a dilemma. Madam Speaker, this bill, Madam Speaker, creates time frame for everything. How long from the time, the court conducts, gives authority to conduct lifestyle audit, it can only be done within 3 months. If you pass those 3 months, you've lost. So that somebody does not stay for a very long time with anxiety, what will happen? The outcome comes fairly quickly, the commencement. And then, Madam Speaker, then there is compensation. If somebody, like for example, because of personal vendetta or political differences, somebody targets you unnecessarily, then, Madam Speaker, this lifestyle audit bill gives a framework whereby the person is paid back whatever they lost. And Madam Speaker, in some cases, Madam Speaker, where it is determined that the person's intention was ill will, Madam Speaker, they are held personally responsible for the losses that is made. And Madam Speaker, it can also be, like for example, if you're in EACC and you targeted a person just arbitrarily, then if in the event that it is proven that it is true that this person wasn't supposed to be, his assets, taken over and everything, then you are personally liable, and then in addition, it can be used as, a way of getting you out of office, Madam Speaker, despite the financial loss you will incur due to that process. And then, Madam Speaker, the fact that individuals can even also start, can be the basis for lifestyle audit to happen, just us as our citizens. But in the case where citizens just complain that, like for example, Farhia is the corrupt one and she has a lot of money accumulated, the agencies need to do some fact-finding before they undertake the lifestyle audit to corroborate the evidence brought by this other person. And then after that so now, I'm saying that although this bill makes the procedure of curbing corruption very easily, but it also puts a lot of stringent measure to handle, Madam Speaker, the issue around people who take advantage of others by, and then of course the negotiation, I talked about it with the public prosecutor in terms of ensuring that people are compensated, Madam Speaker. And then, Madam Speaker, then there is also a procedure in terms of when you're carrying out, there is a deferred prosecution agreement. In terms of there is a procedure, if you breach some of those agreements, then what happens? And then there is also a procedure of terminating the deferred prosecution agreements, especially where the High Court can make an order to terminate. deferred prosecution agreements under Section 29, 1B and 31B as well, of a person shall not be entitled to recover any money that the person shall had been paid before terminating and pursuant to requirement of imposed deferred prosecution agreement, relief of detriment caused by to the person by the person compliance with the terms of the deferred prosecution. And then even the deferred prosecution agreement can be deferred by, they can be also, the courts can also make the validation and deferred prosecution as well is also done. And then also discontinuance of proceeding on expiry of deferred prosecution agreement is also taken care of. Madam Speaker, also in terms of the miscellaneous, there is also another section on miscellaneous provision. And Madam Speaker, the High Court may defer the publication of the information under this part of such a time it considers necessary, if it appears to the court that the postponement is necessary to avoid substantial risk of prejudice to the administration of justice in legal proceeding, investigation under this act, criminal investigation under other written law, and in proceeding under the part, the High Court may, in the interest of in interest of justice, public safety, public security, or propriety, for other sufficient reasons, may order as required. Madam Speaker, and then the need to have regulations by EACC, because they are the main principle of who will be conducting this, is also set out under provision 38, where it says that the director of public may make regulation generally for and then for, in terms of the effect to this out, without limiting the generality under subsection 1, the Director of Public may make regulation for the following, providing for procedure for cooperation with the relevant investigation body under section 5, and then guidance on regulation in the submission of information and carrying out of the investigation, classification of persecution and specified other, and then condition to be complied with while prosecution under this act. Madam Speaker, for the sake of prosperity of this country, Madam Speaker, because for the sake of prosperity of this country and the impact, Madam Speaker, that corruption will have on corruption, Madam Speaker, and the economic gains that this country will reap as a result of this bill, Madam Speaker, I urge my fellow senators to pass this bill. And Madam Speaker, I beg to move and request Senator Mutula to second. And I thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mutula, Lonso Jr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to second the bill. Lifestyle Audit Bill number 2 of 2019, with general comments as follows. One, this is a very, very ambitious, an extremely ambitious bill. I have my own difficulties about some of the provisions, and I'll mention as I second, so that Senator Faria can make some corrections. But first, generally, I think stealing is fashionable in Kenya. Stealing is part of us. So we have to legislate about stealing. The verse in the Bible, thou shalt not steal, has been converted to thou shalt steal, but shall not be caught. Commandment number 11. So, Madam Speaker, this is not about the ordinary Wanjiko in Muranga, Mwekali in Machakos, Mudheu in Machakos, Atieno in Kisumu, or any other place in Kenya. This is about public servants who have public office, who have been given positions of leadership, and who have used those positions of leadership, Madam Speaker, to enrich themselves. At the opportunity, and I'm not sure whether Senator Kangata was in the trip, but maybe he was in the Legal Affairs with the chair. Chair Legal Affairs is here. And we had the opportunity to sit with a consultative forum in London that deals with anti-corruption measures all over Europe. And they gave us a good example of a governor who stole so much money, was prepared to be jailed, and in fact was jailed for a long, long time. And after being jailed for a long, long time, they continued monitoring the proceeds of the theft. The wife ended up being the person who the conduit of corruption was being used. This lady used to shop in Harrods and spend so much money. They traced it to the wife. In this bill, although Senator Faria has proposed a caveat in terms of family, there's no tracing. You cannot trace. This outfit traced the proceeds of this governor who took his proceeds and lived in England to his wife. They also gave us an example of a Nigerian who stole us so much money as minister, relocated to England. And there, this gentleman had all the luxury cars that money can buy, from a Rolls Royce, etc., etc. They did the calculation, and there was no way that this person would have purchased all these luxury vehicles using his salary. Madam Speaker, this should apply both to people who bring their wealth to Kenya and vice versa. Jurisdictional issues. Now, what happens to Senator Irungu Kangata if he becomes wealthy, relocates his wealth to the Isle of Man, and goes and lives there? You need corresponding jurisdiction and extradition treaties with the corresponding jurisdiction, because it's about tracing the sources of wealth. In India, it's simple. They call it assets and proportionate to the known sources of income. The other issue is, and I don't know where Senator Faria has gone, this is a penal statute. Being a penal statute, there's a question of retrospective operation of a penal statute. Assuming, again I will use Kangata, stole 10 years ago, and you find 10 years ago he had assets unknown and proportionate to the known sources of income. In penal law, you cannot make a statute retrospective. So we need to find a way of how we'll anchor retrospective operation in this law. Otherwise, anybody who stole before 2020 is exempted from this law. It will not apply. And there's nothing you can do about it once that is done. The framework is good, but I want to advise. In criminal jurisdiction and criminal jurisdiction in Kenya, the first point of trial is a magistrate court. You only go to the High Court on appeal. The only time you go to a criminal trial in the High Court is murder. It's an appellate. So in terms of your jurisdiction here, you've started with the High Court. In the High Court then would not be the correct court to start, you would start with the magistrate's court. In our criminal jurisprudence, a magistrate only gets jurisdiction, Senator Faria, once you have a charge sheet. That's the same problem we had today with Manduku. They said they had arrested him. When they went to the magistrate, he said he doesn't have a charge sheet. And therefore, you cannot commence, strictly speaking, criminal prosecution without a charge sheet. So the question of deferred prosecution before you charge somebody is unknown in our criminal jurisprudence, and therefore there must be corresponding amendments to our criminal procedure. The second one is that the director of criminal prosecution is an interested party in prosecution. Is it the right person to negotiate with in terms of deferred prosecution? Because I said is an interested party. The director is an interested party in your conviction. It's not necessarily on what you have stolen. I'm saying it's an interested party in your conviction. When you propose, Senator Faria, that the word intends or is in the process of prosecuting you, that is so dangerous. All he needs to do is commence a criminal prosecution against Wamatangi. That's it. That will give him jurisdiction. So where you do not want the power abused, you cannot say intends to prosecute. Because in our criminal jurisprudence, by the time a charge sheet is tabled in court, the prosecutor is saying, I'm satisfied I have evidence. But when they are seated in their office, I don't know where their office is these days, anything they get is prosecution. You know the problems we have with our chairman keeps calling the DPP, Director of Political Prosecution. Why? Because they think that every time you get a complaint is something that can be charged. In some cases, it cannot be. Now, the second thing is, in deferred prosecution, there's something called plea bargaining, and where you get certain people who know what happened as witnesses in the prosecution. And it's plea bargaining. So I would rather, Senator Faria, that in lifestyle audit, the Director of Public Prosecution finds that the shoe Senator Kangata is wearing is so expensive, he could not have afforded it, he charges him in court. It is in the process of charging him in court where his jurisdiction that you plea bargain. And therefore, the court that then has the matter can enter into a plea. Before that, it becomes very dangerous because all power is capable of abuse. We know that. This is Africa. And if they have something against you and it's politics, they will come for you. Recently, the Supreme Court made a very interesting finding on the case of Professor Ojienda. The law then, by the High Court, 3-judge bench, Court of Appeal, said, you cannot go behind somebody's back and get into their account. Senator Kangata received 100 million. Before you notify him, you cannot go to the bank and collect that evidence. The Supreme Court disagrees that you actually don't need that sort of notice. So I would propose that in the case of Clause 7, where you are doing search before a warrant, we structured in such a way that, again, is not abused. In the past, the criminal prosecution has been used to do searches without warrants for the wrong reason. All they need to do is plant a gun in your house. They came to look for a bank account, but then they come with a gun and put it in your house. Like the way I saw a policeman climbing over a gate and with a vehicle. All they need to do is drive a vehicle, bullets, and keep them in and arrest you. So we must have a method in lifestyle audit, how you can do this so that the police, again, do not abuse this power. It's capable of abuse. As I said in the High Court, in the process of the deferred prosecution, I think we must find a way where, even if the matter is not live, a criminal court can get jurisdiction by you being charged. The same way a prosecutor or investigator can get a search warrant in a miscellaneous matter without necessarily prosecuting you. There must be a method where you clothe the court with jurisdiction so that then the prosecutor can be audited in the event they make a mistake. The framework is good. how we'll accept in this country is something I don't know. Because the people we are targeting are the power brokers, the tenderpreneurs, profiteers, people in high echelons of power, governors, etc., etc. This is something that has bothered, you know well, Senator Faria, the president himself. He said he's the first one who will do the lifestyle audit, followed by his deputy, and followed by others. This announcement was made in Mombasa. Has it happened? No. Because it's difficult. It's not as easy. Up to what extent can you limit lifestyle audit? You know, a governor was accused of depositing money in the accounts of the daughter. What if, getting money for a person who was called, when I had the charge, customary law wife. So do we need to limit? But more importantly, how do we limit public servants or persons who are considered public and state officers from trading when they're in office? That's a problem, because Senator Faria and my colleagues, nothing stops Senator Omatangi from having 16 to 20 limited liability companies trading anywhere in the country. Correct? And he does. He's an entrepreneur. So, and it's not a crime. So can you go to his luxurious house and say, since you will know your salary, you could not have built this house? How do we do that? You can't look at his nice car and say, we have seen, you don't have, your salary can't buy a new VX 2017 or 2019. Yet he's a businessman. Up to what limit can we restrict public servants who are the target of this bill from trading? And how do you trace their assets? Assuming that a good entrepreneur like Senator Kangata keeps all his money in one account. From his Mama Mboga account, from his shop in Muranga, where he sells whatever, from a shop in Nairobi, and he puts all the money in one account. That's why it's important to do tracing. It's important that tracing is done. But it's important that in the tracing, my proposal would be that we have set up an outfit and a lady by the name Mudhoni Kimani. It's called Asset and Recovery Agency. That is the outfit you would clothe with the jurisdiction to do the tracing. Then they forward the information to the Director of Public Prosecution, so that the Director of Public Prosecution is not the one chasing the tracing and is not the same person prosecuting you. In Kenya, prosecutors and DPPs have been given instructions to prosecute people who are not considered politically correct. And if you doubt, pick the case of Stanley Muga Githunguri. He was prosecuted so many times, together with the owner of Citizen. So many times. Basharia. The court had to tell Stanley Muga Githunguri, we have released you. Go to the mountain, tallest mountain, Mount Kenya, and say, thank God we have a country. Thank God that you have law. That is what I'm talking about. So in terms of how, because your deferred prosecution chapter 2 is the longest, once we tweak that in terms of who does the tracing, who does the prosecution, how you escalate it to the High Court, we'll have solved the problem that I have with the bill. I have spoken about such warrants. We must be very circumspect about this. In law, we have something called a Mareva injunction. In the Mareva injunction, you can actually injunct the withdrawal of money from an account in advance if you suspect that that money has been either proceeds of crime or proceeds of corruption. We had a very famous case of a gentleman called Humphrey Kariuki those days. And then the order was lifted at about 4 p.m. on a Friday. In less than 30 minutes, 2.1 billion had been withdrawn. So those factors, because we have a history of these cases, must be included here. But this is a beautiful law. I would like to see it in place. This is what we are discussing in national ethos. By the way, Angela Merkel lives in a flat in London. We want to see a president living in a flat. Boris Johnson gets into a bicycle, rides to work. Presidents, Cameron, into a train. It's the way we live. It's the way we live that encourages stealing. That you must, if you are a leader, you must have a house that has 60 rooms. It's the way of life of leaders. You must have a perimeter wall as big as a prison to be considered a big man. It's a big man syndrome that has left to corruption, theft. And in the 11th commandment, thou shalt not be caught. But these people who are caught have money to pay for bail. They are 15, 20, 30 million. So in this framework, we must have a framework where we can prosecute quickly and jail people and recover those assets and buy ambulances. It's not very clear here. Buy ambulances like the Smith and Usman's case, where the Smith and Usman's case, ambulances were bought, I never saw them, but the people who gave them the bribes in Kenya, hallelujah, are walking free. Some of them, I'm told, will be governors. I beg to support.
Thank you, Senators. Senators, I would now like to propose the question that the lifestyle audit number 2 bill, Senate Bills number 21 of 2019 be now read a second time. Senator Pareno.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my sister and Vice Chair of Delegated Legislation, former Vice Chair, because this committee is yet to be reconstituted. And Madam Speaker, this is a very, very important bill. Very important to an extent that when I looked at the provisions of our Constitution, the bill really is grounded on these provisions. In Article 73, Madam Speaker, and you'll allow me to read, on responsibility of leadership, that is Chapter 6, which is leadership and integrity. And sometimes you wonder whether we have to keep going around doing more laws when we just have the law right there. But as a country, why we don't implement, why we don't walk the talk, why we write very beautiful constitutions and provisions, but fall short of implementing, I don't understand, Madam Speaker. On leadership and integrity, it says, authority assigned to a state officer, A, is a public trust to be exercised in a manner that is consistent with the purposes and objects of the Constitution, demonstrate respect of the people, 3, brings honor to the nation and dignity to the office, and 4, promotes public confidence in the integrity of the office, and vests in the state officer the responsibility to serve the people rather than the power to rule them. 2, the guiding principles of leadership and integrity includes selection on the basis of personal integrity. You can see how many times this chapter talks about integrity. Competence and suitability, or election in free and fair elections. Objectivity and impartiality in decision making, and in ensuring that decisions are not influenced by nepotism, favoritism, and other improper motives or corrupt practices. Then it goes ahead to say, selfless service based solely on the public interest demonstrated by honesty in the execution of the public duties, and the declaration of any personal interest that conflict with public rules. Of course, goes ahead to talk about accountability to the public for decisions and actions, and discipline and commitment in service to the people. So Madam Speaker, our constitution is so clear that what we intend to have is leadership that is honest, leadership that is corrupt-free, leadership that is accountable to the people, leadership that is leadership. But Madam Speaker, we keep going on round and round as a country. The last we had the other day of that lady Ngirita was, we had expected to hear about conviction or how the case is going on, but the next thing you hear is how she's crying that her son now does not even know how to speak German language, when some children are lacking in basics, no schools, no medicine, no nothing. Somebody's talking about how my son cannot speak or how my child cannot speak German language. Madam Speaker, the picture we have of our country is disturbing. Just as I say this afternoon that we really need prayers, that, oh God, please remember us so that we may go in your ways. This morning or yesterday, as we were watching, as the police are scaling up some very tall wall, they are trying to get to a compound. Then you see recovery of several motor vehicles, very expensive gadgets. Then you are told lots of money recovered. But thereafter, Madam Speaker, we speak nothing or we see no actual convictions, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other day we talked, we had a report that was tabled in this House on how other countries are fighting corruption. And one such step is this kind of law, passing the necessary rules and passing the necessary laws that will ensure that, that people are punished for wrongdoing. And one of the things that struck me, Madam Speaker, in that report that was tabled by and was being debated and tabled by the Honorable Isaac Mwaura, was how the country, Hong Kong, had been able to fight corruption to an extent that they are now proud that they are corruption-free. How over 50 countries are trying to come together to get new ways of fighting corruption. And one thing that struck me is the issue of how they were talking about self-discipline. Yet this culture starts from how we are self-disciplined. Madam Speaker, for the Maasais, and maybe for most of other communities, long time, because right now I can attest that it is no longer really there. A child belongs to the entire community. In fact, a child would dare not do a wrong before any member of the community or society. Because the moment you did wrong, then anybody who was around there would punish you for that wrongdoing. But we lost that long time ago. In fact, right now, Madam Speaker, you point at somebody's child for doing wrong, the next thing you'll see yourself is in a police station defending why you pinched somebody's child or you pointed at a child for doing wrong, Madam Speaker. So we have to relook at how we want this society to be, what we want of ourselves, Madam Speaker. So, and that is one of the virtues that was being preached in that Hong Kong conference, that actually they started by looking at self-discipline in their country. What is it that is ailing them, and how they were able to come out of it. And of course, they went ahead to talk about the rule of law. For us, Kenyans, we have very beautiful laws. I've just read a very, very, very nice chapter on leadership and integrity, but we have done nothing about it. Madam Speaker, I remember when we did this 2010 Constitution. Immediately thereafter, we tried to, even in political parties, we tried to vet candidates so that candidates who come before you bring their history, CV, they come before you, you are able to know whether they are convicts or whether they have cases going on and whether you should vet and clear them. And I want to be frank that some of those people who are opposed to any vetting on integrity were none other than politicians themselves, saying, no, who told you this is a way to interpret Chapter 6? Because to us, the interpretation of Chapter 6 was, you are charged, first of all, step aside until you're cleared. you have a case, you are convicted, then we might not have to clear you. But on the forefront of fighting this implementation of Chapter 6, I want to say was, among others, were politicians themselves, saying that this is not the way to vet us and you don't have the rights to vet us in this manner. So I think as a country, we really have a long way to go. We just the other day were able to do the impeachment of Waititu. Now we are here trying to see how to do the rest of the business of the House in a manner that this Senate can speak about this is corrupt practice. So this law is coming out with very bold steps, which I'm just hoping will not be another document to be shelved, just like we are shelving our Constitution, Chapter 6. This is a well-thought piece of legislation to implement this Chapter 6 of our Constitution, and I hope that at the end of the day, we'll be able to make a difference. Madam Speaker, if we don't make corruption so painful, those corrupt people, if we don't nab them and make it so painful for them, then we will just be fighting a losing battle, and we will just be piling up laws upon laws for us to be able to try and speak about corruption. So Madam Speaker, I fully support this, and I ask that we all support, because it will go a long way to implement what we really envisaged when we did this Chapter 6 of the Constitution. I support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator of Muranga, Senator Kangata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this bill, and I will start with doing some few responses to the second of this move. He made some contributions which I would like to correct a little bit from where I sit. Number one, he suggests that the mover should amend the bill and provide for the concept of retrospectivity on the account that if you don't have such kind of a clause, those who have corrupted prior to 2020 will not be punished. Madam Speaker, I beg to differ. I am not so sure such kind of a clause can stand the test of constitutionality. I say that because Article 50 and Article 49, they have clauses which seems to disallow retrospectivity of criminal law. And therefore, I am not so sure whether the mover can be able to amend and provide for that. Again, I've also heard his proposal that the move of this bill should seek to make the Chief Magistrate Court, or rather the Magistrates Court, as the court of the first instance. There have been several references to the High Court. Again, on that score, I am not so sure that will be the best course of action. The reason being, the High Court, pursuant to Article 165 of the Constitution, has the power to supervise what we call other courts, supervisory jurisdiction of the High Court. And in a way, to the best of my knowledge, I think the move of this bill wanted to ensure that High Court retain some supervisory roles. And to that extent, I think the High Court is the correct court to be given the powers that have been proposed to be given by this bill. And therefore, generally, for me, I think this is a good bill. And the reason I'm supporting of this bill is, one, President Uhuru Kenyatta, His Excellency, has expressed his need to do lifestyle audit. When he was in Mombasa, I think that was the year 2018 or 2019 or thereabout, he says that he intends to do lifestyle audit insofar as civil servants and other public servants are concerned. The truth is, we do not have a legislative framework to support such kind of an endeavor. To that extent, therefore, my sister has done this country a great service by initiating something ideally ought to have been brought to this House by the ministry concerned or even the Attorney General to effectuate the intention of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. And to that extent, this is positive. Another reason why I support this bill is that when you look at comparative jurisdictions, you draw lessons from other countries, you will ascertain that indeed those other progressive countries, they do have a similar framework. And therefore, if you want to fight against corruption, we may need to establish this kind of law to ensure we achieve our big fight against corruption. Another reason why I'm supportive of this bill is that unlike several pieces of legislations which have this tendency to create bodies after bodies, this bill does not propose to create any body. I have seen, for instance, every bill coming to this House, or even the National Assembly, it is proposing to come up with a certain agency, a certain statutory body, therefore causing governments to pay money to so many bodies which have overlapping responsibilities. To the extent that this bill is not proposing to create any statutory body, to me that's again a positive thing. It is light in terms of regulation. It is light in terms of expenditure to the government. In fact, there is no cost the government is going to incur if this bill becomes into law. I checked the proposed section 5 of this bill, the so-called bodies involved in lifestyle audit. These are the common bodies, and therefore I am happy that what this bill is proposing to do is just to expand the scope of the functions of those bodies which have been mentioned in proposed section 5. My brother, again from Makueni, has raised the issue concerning DPP. He thinks that DPP ought not to have any interest in this matter, in the sense that he thinks that DPP has a vested interest in a criminal prosecution, and therefore he's not the one who can really negotiate with a suspect for what is called deferred prosecution. I beg to disagree. We all know that DPP has the constitutional sole mandate of prosecuting suspects, and therefore we cannot, by a statute, take away that power, and therefore all negotiations, all nolle prosecutions, all kinds of withdrawals of criminal prosecutions has always to get the concurrence of the DPP. So I see no problem with the idea that DPP gets a central role in this bill. The only area I would ask my sister to consider improving would be in the following areas. Number one, there has been this proposal that, which is contained in the BBI, that a whistleblower will be getting a certain percentage of money which will be recovered from convicts in corruption cases. For me, this bill can probably provide for that. I think we will have effectuated BBI as soon as possible. It makes all the sense. It's a very good proposal. So therefore, my sister, please consider bringing that BBI proposal into this bill, so that heroes, people who have fought against Goldenberg, Anglo-leasing, people who have fought against all sorts of corruption scandals, people who have had the courage to whistleblow, they need to get a compensation. I agree 5% makes a lot of sense, or even 10%. Let us provide for that in this bill. And that will be a major positive feature of this bill. Number two, I would urge this bill to consider providing what I would call mutual cooperations between Kenya and other states in asset recovery. I concede what my brother from Makueni said, that there exists a major loophole in this country when it comes to cooperations between Kenya and other countries. It is a stain on Kenya that some people were found guilty in a case in the UK, but their local counterparts who are suspected in that scandal, up to today, they have never gone to court to get justice. Chris Okemo is still here in this country. There is also the former Gishoro, that MD guy for Kenya Power. He is still in this country. I'm not saying they are guilty, no. But the question is, their counterparts in the UK were found guilty. There was a request that was made by the UK government to extradite them. Up to now, those guys are still in this country. To me, it shows that we are very weak laws, either in terms of procedure, which then makes suspects to wiggle and delay justice. That to me is unfair. It is making Kenya's reputation internationally to be dented. The same goes, of course, to other related white-collar crimes. Remember the case of Akasha. He was in Kenya, never getting justice. It only took the intervention of the government of the US to have him taken to the US for him to face justice. To me, that is not good. We need to look at this law to see what loopholes can be done in our criminal justice system to ensure that white-collar criminals face justice in Kenya, and wherever we get a request from a foreign country, immediately we can take a person to face justice elsewhere. And therefore, this is one of the pieces of legislations where we can tidy up what I would call transnational justice mechanisms against the fight, what we call white-collar crime. Madam Speaker, I do also support this bill because I've been reading newspapers. You see people who come to seek appointments, or let me say vetting, before the National Assembly. You see, there's a correlation. Every time you see a PS, he does a declaration of wealth. You see the so-called applicants for PS, they are declaring wealth of about 200 million shillings. Another one is doing a declaration of about 300 million shillings. Another one is making a declaration of about 1 billion shillings. Surely, in a country that is so poor like Kenya, and this is a person who has been in public service through and through. We all know the kind of salaries that are paid in public service. And you see the kind of declaration those people are making. We need this law to investigate such characters. For me, Madam Speaker, wealth creation, the richest people in this country ought to be in private sector. That is where you create new ideas. As a result of those ideas, then you attract wealth. People come to purchase those ideas. And then you appropriate money, and then you become wealth. But when you see public servants, you see civil servants being billionaires, being millionaires, to me that's very dangerous. People do not come to public service to become rich. Wealth ought to be created out there. Why? Because out there, that is when you are free, you are equal, there's no one who is assisting you. But here in government, you are a servant. You are in a position of privilege, a position of power. You are going to leverage on that position to create wealth. Ideally, wealth, the richest people should be bankers out there, should be scientists out there, should be people coming up with ideas out there which then generate wealth. Mr. Speaker, go to United States of America or other advanced democracies. You will never see public servants being as billionaire as compared to this country. In fact, by the way, to know how sick Kenya is in terms of corruption is only to do an analysis of the rich people in Kenya. You'll always see them somehow, at one point of their life, they were in major positions of service in the public sector. There's a correlation between being wealthy in Kenya and having served public service at one moment. To me, that's not a good system. A good system is where you are creating a patent. A patent then does very good thing, and then you get a lot of money. You come up with an idea out there without any assistance of the government, never getting a penny from the government. You create so much wealth, and then as a result, then you become rich. You know, Madam Speaker, the kind of society we have in Kenya compels people now to fight for government. That explains, by the way, why there is huge jostling for political positions. Because people want to join political positions or to join government, they leverage, they become rich. No, we should not become rich by leveraging. Let us become rich by coming up with very good ideas out there, which ideas are protected by the states. And those ideas, then they power society. We create new patents, scientific patents. We create new businesses that employ people. We create wealth out there, but not coming into government and then overnight you are a billionaire. That is not how a society is made. That is not how capitalism operates. Government is just to enable society to thrive, not people who are serving the government to become, they are the ones who are the rich in this country. And to that extent, Madam Speaker, this bill, if it is going to do something that is going to enable us fight corruption, to me, this is positive. I allowed His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. He is the first president to go after major big facts in this country. I have never seen any government prosecuting cabinet secretary in charge of finance. I have never seen. For the first time, we are seeing a governor facing criminal charges before a court of law. And to that extent, we need to laud His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and therefore support this bill, because it is part of the very good efforts that my sister has done to support His Excellency in that fight. Thank you. I support.
Senator Inima Gertrude Musurubi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to support this one important bill. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that when it comes to lifestyle audit, I think I want to commend what Senator Faria has come up with regard to this bill, because it is coming at a time when everyone is talking about fighting corruption, and this would be effective if it is enshrined in law. Now, I want to say that when it comes to issues of corruption, actually these issues of corruption are endemic among public servants. And one thing public servants need to know is that when you're in a public office, you are there as a servant to serve people. And to serve people, you really need to work with a lot of integrity. When we look at Chapter 6, it is very clear. It talks about leadership and integrity. You cannot talk about leadership without talking about issues of integrity. Because when you're talking of leadership, we are saying that a leader must be trustworthy, a leader must put others first, a leader must be concerned about others, a leader must be trustworthy, a leader must demonstrate that indeed he's there to serve people. And I want to say that based on Chapter 6 of the Constitution and leadership, there is no way a public servant can be effective if he does not have integrity, because integrity is core in leadership. It is actually a core characteristic in leadership, that you cannot say that you are an efficient leader, you cannot say that you are a people leader if you do not have integrity in yourself. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that this bill comes in rightly to ensure that public servants do what the Constitution really demands. The Constitution, as in Chapter 6, having the appropriate qualities. Most of the time when public servants are going for jobs, they'll be asked about issues of Chapter 6, they will sign and all that, but some of them have not even looked at Chapter 6 itself to know what exactly does Chapter 6 entail. I think in some interviews also, public servants, when they're going for jobs, they should be asked, can you enumerate what is in Chapter 6 of the Constitution, so that even it becomes part of the interview process for them to be seen whether they really know what Chapter 6 is all about. Because many people talk about Chapter 6, but they do not know the contents of Chapter 6. So there's need for people to know, even public servants, to really know about the contents of Chapter 6. And this should be a sensitization that should go on in all public offices, that when you're talking of Chapter 6, in fact, it should be in the charter of most organizations, that Chapter 6 of the Constitution says this and that, because many people are not aware of the nitty-gritties of Chapter 6. Now, I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that I support this bill with regard to Clause 3 that talks about standards of conducting an audit. And one of the characteristics, or one of the standards it talks about is objectivity. And objectivity means that whoever is conducting an audit will be objective, impartial, and should not really be lopsided in any way. So any audit should be done in such a manner that it wants to achieve a certain objective. And the objective should be for the purpose of the organization, for the purpose of the public, for the purpose of ensuring that the person in the office is actually adhering to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. That should be the objective of carrying out an audit. But if that is not the objective, then there's no need of carrying out, an audit, because if the audit is based on malice, or if the audit is not based on something that is formidable, then a lot of resources will be wasted for no, good reason. And then also something else about the standards, it talks about confidentiality. It also talks about professionalism. That is where when you're conducting an audit, you have to be professional in the manner in which the audit is being conducted. It should not be a kind of audit that is being done by people who are just learning on the job, or people who are actually at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the day, they know what they want. It should be an objective one where you're doing an investigation, and an investigation that is genuine, and you say, yes, at the end of the day, this is what we have discovered. But you should not already discover and then you go and do an audit. So it should be something that is very impartial, something that is really not even catching someone. It should be something that you really want to ensure that it is done in a manner that is professional, in a manner that is that seeks to ensure that you are someone of integrity. Now, I also want to say that when it comes to also the audit, it should be within the existing standards of any written law. It should not just be an audit that is done haphazardly. There should be a written law that is speaking to the kind of audit that is being done. And also, another thing I like about this bill by Senator Faria is that when it comes to the audit, not anyone can be audited. We have reasons as to why audits can be done. So an audit can be done under Clause 4. We have the ifs of audit. Like, for example, if the person seems to be living far beyond his means, then that is a ground to do an audit. And also, if a person is unable to even explain how he got his wealth or how he got his property, then that can be a reason to investigate. And also, if a person, if there's misappropriation of funds within the person's docket, then that can be a ground. So when it comes to audit, I think Kenyans should not fear audit, because not anyone can be audited. You'll not just be ambushed that now we want to carry out an audit for you. There must be an if. There must be a reason. There must be, let's see. Let's try to correlate, the wealth and the person's earning and all that. So I want to say, when it comes to even auditing, like for instance, if you are in a docket where you are trusted with a lot of funds, and then funds disappear, and then your life seems to be, very high and way beyond, beyond the rest, there could be a reason probably to audit. So we are saying that an audit is not something that is supposed to catch people by surprise. And also, when it comes to the bill states very well that the obligations of the auditing body. As in, the auditing body will not just wake up one morning and say, we want to audit you, and then they ransack the office, they catch you unawares. No. According to this bill, a proper and objective audit, the body must ensure that it informs the person who is being audited, maybe 7 days too, so that the person is notified in good time that there's going to be an audit. Because when there's an audit, it does not mean that somebody is a thief. It does not mean that they want to audit you because they've realized you've stolen something or what. They just want to ensure that Chapter 6 of the Constitution is being obliged to. And they also just want to ensure that you are innocent, because if you are audited, it does not mean that you are criminal. An audit is okay. Yes, let person be, according to the bill, let the people being audited be told, be informed by the auditing body that in 7 days, we are going to have an audit. And then also, people should also be told, why the audit? Why are you auditing? Why are we auditing you? It should not just be that since you're being audited, you're already a criminal, somebody gets into your office, turns the computers upside down, switches off the lights, does this and that. It should be a process that is proper, professional, standard, and a process that is actually going to come up with verifiable evidence that an audit has been conducted, and yes, this person is okay, this person is right, or an audit has been conducted, and yes, this person, there's a question mark about the person, because it does not always mean that when you're audited, you are on the wrong. Now, another thing is that when it comes to audit, it states very clearly that the body must know that the person being audited has a right to be heard. The fact that you're being audited does not mean that you're a criminal, you cannot open your mouth, you cannot even defend yourself, how you got your wealth and all that. The bill speaks to this, that yes, you have a right to be heard. If it's an issue of explanation, you need to actually explain and even have verifiable evidence, to show how you got your wealth, to show how you got this and that, so that the auditors are satisfied that probably whatever they thought was wrong is not really the case. Because essentially, it's supposed to be an objective process. And then when it comes to audit also, what I like about the bill also is that the person has a right to representation. The fact that you're being audited does not mean that you should not have representation legally. So according to this bill, the person being audited must be also represented by law, and apart from being represented, the person also must be cross-examined so that he can defend himself. When it comes to an audit and when you want to criminalize someone, you must really talk to the person, give the person a hearing. After giving the person a hearing, cross-examine, so that at the end of the day, even if a ruling is going to be done, it is going to be a ruling that is, it is going to be a ruling that is fair, it is going to be a ruling that is just. But when someone is being audited, it does not mean that the person should just be mum and not talk at all, or the person should not be represented. Now, also the bill, something good about the bill is that it also obligates public officers to be genuine and truthful on how they actually acquired their wealth, so that whatever wealth they have, it should be hard and wealth. Because in a country like Kenya, if I am to say, even if you are to own a house, sincerely, you cannot build a house using your salary without taking a loan. For a mega project in Kenya, just any simple public servant must take a loan. So if you have taken a loan to build a house, and the auditors come and see that indeed you took a loan and you built this house, then they'll know that actually there are answers to whatever they are seeking to. But if someone just wakes up one morning, builds a house, finishes, builds another one, finishes, without loans at all, there must be a question mark, because mega projects are not easy to come up with unless you have taken a mega loan, so that you eventually stay like a pauper as you're paying the loan. So I want to say...
Just a minute, Senator Kabaka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's not my intention to interfere with my sister, Senator, but it should be very clear that a public servant, by taking a loan, does not of necessity mean that he or she is clean and cannot service the loan even using the ill-gotten loot. It's very possible. People actually are known just to take the loan to camouflage, and then later they will use the source of corruption to service the loan. So it's not a cure as such. That's my opinion.
I didn't note that you were trying to give information to the senator. I would have asked her to to tell us whether she wanted to be informed, but nonetheless, that is good information for.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I want to say that this house is a house of reason, and everyone is entitled to, his opinion. But what I'm saying, if you listen clearly, I was talking of probabilities. I'm not saying that that is the case. I was just giving a scenario that when it comes to even owning, probably. And I'm not talking about extremes. I may not know the public servant that could be that crafty, but I'm talking about ideally a normal public servant who is not crooked in thinking. A normal public servant who is not crooked in thinking will take a loan, build a house, and will say even 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, just paying that loan. So I'm talking about that kind of genuine public servant. But we are also saying that there are many other public servants that have, a wider scope of enriching themselves. So these are the ones who are saying it is possible, yes, if an investigation is done, then it can be known that is what they have done. But ideally, what I'm saying is that to have a mega project in Kenya, it is not possible to have a mega project in Kenya as a public servant without taking loans. Because if you just rely on salary alone, you may not even be able to build a home back, the house back at home. You might end up even getting into a semi-permanent house or not one at all. You must at least sacrifice at some point. So that sacrifice is what I'm saying, that it is very much in order. But when an audit comes, an audit wants to find out, if you have a mega project, how did you manage to do the mega project? When you just explain and then the evidence is there, the loans you took and all that, I think they'll be satisfied. They may not want to, okay, they're crooked, if they know your crooked ways, then that will be okay. But in the process of auditing, it is possible even for them as psychologists to know whether whatever you're saying is true or not. Because according to this bill, public servants are obligated to be truthful when it comes to the information they give. So if they're giving information that is not truthful, there's a fine that it attracts also. It is actually in the bill, so that if public servants are not truthful and it comes out later that they're not truthful, they'll be prosecuted for not being truthful. So I want to say that this bill actually necessitates public officers to be highly cautious and careful with the manner in which they handle public money when they're in office. So I want to say that I support this bill, and if it is a bill that is followed really to the latter, and if it is a bill that is followed according to it professionally and with integrity, objectivity, and all that, it is a bill that is going to even help public servants style up. It is a bill that is going to help public servants ensure that they're giving a genuine service to the people of this republic, because that is what they're employed to do, to be a servant leader in whatever capacity. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support this bill.
Senator Milgo, Alice Chepkoli.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to also support this bill. And I want to start by thanking Senator Faria for really thinking through and coming up with such a very wonderful bill that will go a long way to speak to issues of illegal acquisition of wealth. And I want to say that this bill has come at the right time, because as it is, I think in the year 2018, the president of this country declared that everyone has got to go through a lifestyle audit. And there were so many traumas. Very many people felt that maybe there was some witch hunt. Some felt our people were being followed. Others felt that maybe they were the only ones being followed to actually declare, or rather to be audited in terms of this. But with a legal framework, this will go a long way to actually guide to the investigating bodies to be able to conduct this without fear or favor. And in any case, I hope my sister, Senator Faria, will ensure that this bill actually declares when, where, how this one here will be undertaken, so that it applies to all people in this country. Madam Speaker, I think this is the first time that we have a legal framework that will guide in terms of process. It is also directing in issues of professionalism, because without professionalism, I think this can be prone to abuse, where even those who go out to public to be actually looking at lifestyle audit may even end up conducting some other activities, and in this case, to actually affect officers who are being audited in the wrong way. Madam Speaker, I think if this country would actually embrace this particular bill, it is going to be a game changer for our country, particularly when we have a body involved. The Directorate of Public Prosecution will be able to receive even very serious cases from this particular body, Madam Speaker, so that it is not the only one, because many a times we have been saying this body is toothless. It has been the only body that has been looking out to actually to actually prosecute cases without having to have an investigating body to be able to refer. I've seen many cases that have gone to Directorate of Public Prosecution being thrown out and being declared that they were not supposed to be taken there because they lack evidence. So in this case, if we have such a legal framework, we have a provisional body. What that means then will be by the time any individual will be referred to the Directorate of Public Prosecution, I think that that particular case will be one that is actually that should actually be investigated, because I think we have wasted a lot of money, time with this Directorate of Public Prosecution conducting cases, and at the end of it all, there is no case to be answered. Madam Speaker, I support this bill because this bill has been done with the consideration of all other acts that deal with integrity, issues of procurement, financial management, and in this case, I think a lot has gone into this. I want to thank my sister because she has even talked about going to the extent of conducting, or rather finding out from other countries how they have come up with such a bill. Madam Speaker, I think in part 3, this bill is telling us that those cases that are even going to be deferred will be directed to the Directorate of Public Prosecution. However, this is the area which must be looked into clearly, because as it stands right now, there are very many cases that have been taken to this Directorate of Public Prosecution as well, and then they have never seen the light of day. I know there are cases where I've been talking about corruption even in terms of maize. Some time back we were told some 18 billion was stolen that was otherwise supposed to be paid to farmers. And in any case, I think, Madam Speaker, you even mentioned of the cases of the Ngaritas, and in any case, nothing has come out of that. There are other cases that the list is endless that have gone to this particular body, but then nothing has come out of this. And when we refer these cases where we are saying those are the cases that may take a long time to prosecute, they are the cases which may otherwise maybe require a lot of money to investigate. And in any case, I think Senator Kilonzo Jr. said these are the very lucrative ones, which will go, in this case, which will even escape the prosecution because of the fact that they have got money to buy their way. Our major challenge in this country, Madam Speaker, is that despite the very many bodies that we have, despite the fact that we even have Chapter 6, where an officer is supposed, I think you also titled this, where an officer before employment must, in this case, be vetted on this conduct, despite the fact that even once an officer is in office, the same officer must conduct themselves in a manner that befits a public office. Like in the case of Article 75, Madam Speaker, 2, which is saying a person who contravenes Clause 1 or Article 76, 77, and 78(2) shall be subjected to the applicable disciplinary procedures for the relevant office. How many officers in this country have been prosecuted for actually abusing office? There are none. There are very many officers that have abused their officers. Today, we were being told that there are others that even end up corrupting cases, and at the end of it all, when they know that there is a case to answer, they end up panning their officers, and therefore, they in this case, corrupt the evidences that would otherwise have gone to convict them. And in any case, this bill, it is my prayer that this bill, once it is ascended to, will actually be acted on so that it doesn't collect tasks like very many other bills that are out there. Madam Speaker, there are very many cases, or rather many questions that can also come to one's mind looking at this bill. Like this bill has got to clearly declare how one will be able to find out, or rather to establish money that is normally stashed to other accounts outside this country. I think recently we got to learn of a case where there was some 2.5 billion that was found in some banks outside this country. What happened to that amount of money? Other cases, we have people trading in the very same offices with which they were supposed to actually serve, and in any case, they are supposed to refrain from trading there. But then in terms of maybe bringing up several names, or rather using other proxies, they'll be able to trade in the same offices. Other people, Madam Speaker, may even keep money using other people. Some people can even keep their money that is achieved through wrong means in their daughters, in their sons, in their wives. And if this bill will simply just follow up on maybe a particular officer, I think we ought to have a clause that will direct us to be able to follow up not only the actual officer, but all the way up to that is the extended family. Madam Speaker, one other challenge that may actually affect this bill is the fact that such a bill may be used to prosecute people selectively. For example, the poor in this case may end up suffering. I think we have heard from my colleagues that in most cases, those bills that could otherwise have cured issues of corruption in this country is normally applied to the poor, so that the poor people that have stolen very little money are normally the ones that are kept in prison. They are the ones that are going to suffer, other than the people that have taken billions and billions of money from this country. And Madam Speaker, therefore this bill must be in such a way that it is not going to affect only the poor or those that are politically incorrect, because sometimes you look at trends that affect people. There are others that have been affected in terms of corruption, but then they are allowed to go scot-free. However, other people are just prosecuted, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this comes out clearly in this case when we even cut across various institutions in this country, various government institutions in this country, you realize that the only people that ever got prosecuted were those that stole very little money, those people that did not have any people to assist them, and in any case, they did not have enough money to be able to hire very strong lawyers. Madam Speaker, this bill indeed is such a wonderful bill, but then it does require a complete mindset when it comes to the people. And even when you look at the issue of declaration of wealth, Madam Speaker, normally I look at the issue of filling wealth declaration forms. I do not know what these forms are going to be consumed by who. Year in, year out, we fill wealth declaration forms. Yet there could be officers who have just filled these wealth declaration forms. They have got well beyond their means, but then nobody has gone to be able to capture and prosecute them. Therefore, these forms again, I think we are just simply filling shelves and offices with these wealth declaration forms. I think it is high time that we look at these forms again, whether they are actually telling the truth. Madam Speaker, I think with Amendments 10, this bill will by no means go a long way in curing, or rather speaking to the issues of runaway corruption in our country. And if with the amendments, and with the support from all our officers in this country, this bill will go a long way to assist us, and I think it will be a turning point for our country. I once again want to thank Senator Faria for bringing to this House such a wonderful bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Kabaka Boniface Mutinda.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'll be very brief. Looking at the clock there, I can see we barely have less than 10 minutes, or maybe there's somebody else to follow. Thank you very much, Senator Faria, for this important bill. It's long overdue. I wish this bill was established at the advent of independence. Would not be having this problem, because you do appreciate that historically, Kenya, after attaining independence, having undergone a system of capitalism, and a serious one, we inherited that system of capitalism through all our board organs, judiciary. You do appreciate that at independence, all the parties, all the officers of the judiciary were white men, and they perpetuated the doctrine of capitalism. And this is now what is eating the children in the descent. This bill, I've read it very well from section 1 all the way. In particular, I would say it terminates at section 30, that is section 34, because after that what we have is miscellaneous provision under part 5, that is section 35 all through to section 40, and then of course thereunder there is memorandum of objects and the reasons thereof. This is very good bill, only that it needs to be polished in certain aspects. Thank you. I appreciate. I have 20 minutes, so I'll go slowly then. This bill, not to lose focus, I've looked at these objectives. It's very clear, indeed, that it deals with lifestyle audit. And under section 2 of the interpretation of this bill, it defines it very clear for the viewers to understand what we are talking about. It means, and means is conclusive in law, an investigative audit of a person's living standards to ascertain consistency with a person lawfully obtained or reported income. So in short, in a nutshell, this bill entirely deals with the lifestyles of persons. In other words, a person should not be seen to live beyond his or her own means. If your salary is 100,000, then you know you cannot afford, a chopper. If you get a chopper, then by analogy, and it's a decision of Court of Appeal, actually even Supreme, it's very clear that the court has held more than once that if a person is challenged to explain the source of his wealth or her wealth and is unable to explain, then logically that person will be deemed to be corrupt. It goes without saying. And that is what we are talking about. Madam Speaker, the other issue which I've seen which needs brushing is the issue of jurisdiction. And I was very much careful looking at the hierarchy of the systems of the courts here. Because under the bill, the proposer, Senator, proposed that this bill, or rather the jurisdiction of the court commences with the High Court. But if you look at the sections 162, 1 and more so subsection 2, it's very clear. It defines the courts by itself, of course, bequeathing the parliament certain powers. So it says that the superior courts are the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and the High Court, and the courts referred to in subsection 2. Subsection 2 says Parliament, this is it now, Parliament shall establish courts within the status of the High Court to hear and determine disputes relating to
Senator
two matters.
Faria, do you have an intervention? Take your seat, Senator Kabaka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted as a point of information, because this came up not now the second time. The reason why I picked the High Court was so that, to give this a better stature in terms of small, courts, everyone, getting a order of magistrate court and all this, and getting, people being charged everywhere. So that's why I thought, but as lawyers, you can bring the right amendment. That is the reason for picking that.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're saying, but exactly what I'm saying is the kind of amendment we are seeking to polish this bill. It's a good bill. And that's why we are saying there is nowhere, it's not possible for us just to have the High Court, because the Constitution, which is the supreme law, is very clear under Article 162, subsection 2, which is very categorical in layman's language, that it only gives, if you listen well, it only gives two aspects for the High Court. It says Parliament shall establish courts with the status of the High Court to hear and determine disputes relating to, number A, employment and labor relation. That one we have is already established. Number two, finally, the environment and the use and occupation of title to land. That is what lawyers call, land courts, land law courts. So beyond that, there is nothing. And that's what I'm saying. This bill, the intention is good, but subsection 3 says Parliament shall determine the jurisdiction and function of the courts contemplated in subsection 2. So it is for the Parliament now, bestowing on what we call the administrative aspect of the courts. It is always imperative that at this stage we should not demean the subordinate court, or rather the magistrate court, because it's a magistrate court. Doesn't mean that there's no justice. Justice can be done anywhere. Anywhere. It doesn't mean because it's the High Court or even Supreme Court, that's where justice is. Justice is in court. Any court is a court of competent jurisdiction. That's what we say. So my take as a lawyer is that the jurisdiction ought to start at the lower level, at the magistrate court. But only that I need to add that that magistrate court should be defined just to be dealing with the matters relating to lifestyle audit alone, because of time limitation. Because any matters go to High Court or even Court of Appeal, they are known to stay there for many years because of the backlog of cases. But if we are serious with this nature, to have this law move very fast and protect Kenyans, it's better we have a specialized court. And we should start with, there's no better court than subordinate court, which is now subject to supervisory jurisdiction of the High Court, where the parties now can appeal if they are not satisfied. Madam Speaker, the other aspect of this bill, of course, we presuppose that persons who cannot explain how they obtained their wealth. But the question is, in reality, what happens at the both national and county governments? How do people get this wealth? That's an area we need also to interrogate. And of course, there is law on that. It's through procurement. At the national levels and the county levels, parties are known to do, shoddy tendering process. And that's where they make money. That's where they are given kickbacks. So, there's also what we call also falsification of the government land titles by those who are working at the land registry. They are known to make money or to have made their money that way. What they normally do is to watch, and you have seen even Governor Songo facing that challenge, saying that there are cartels in the city. People are known to watch or even to look at the files, the green cards of the certain lands, especially in prime areas, in places like Keren, places like Westlands, Kileleshwa, at certain areas like in Rift Valley, in Nakuru. Those prime areas, they are known to check, which obviously once was owned by the colonial masters. So anytime those people bring their titles for maybe renewal or maybe extension of the lease, I thought 20 minutes. It's gone.
Order, senators, your 20 minutes are not gone. Senator Kabaka, you'll have a balance of 10 minutes when this matter comes next in the order
Thank
paper. Honorable senators, it is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the business of the Senate. The House therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 4th March 2020 at 2:30 p.m.